on a roll. Did pretty good last week. Let's see if we can continue.
16?
16? Okay.
Pretty good for me. Pretty good.
17. All right. Our highest episode yet. All right. Well,
it's all downhill from here.
And it's only February. Welcome back to WRPL, the podcast where we talk about all the things we are watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steve.
And I got to start with an apology. We weren't able to record last week. There was medical issues at my house, and we just couldn't get together. So we have kind of a stuffed episode. We'll try to get through them as quick as possible. Our main topic is going to be Knock at the Cabin and ranking all of M. Night Shyamalan's his filmography. And a whole lot of everything. I think
that's not a bad episode title. Just call it like Stuffed, and it's just like this is our stuff.
Yeah,
and there's just so much of it. It's stuffed.
It's a stuffed episode.
Stuffed episode.
How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing okay, Ben. How about you?
I'm doing all right. So spoilers for everything that we're going to talk about. But first, I think we need to start with our weekly segment, The Last of Us recaps. We weren't able to do episode 4 and 5, right?
Yeah. Well, we weren't able to do episode 4 last week. And we're doing 5 today. Yeah, so we're doing 4 and 5 together.
Yeah, we weren't able to record last week, so we're doing 4 and 5 today. You just can't stop Last of Us. There's not a bad scene or line of dialogue. I'd say this episode 5 had something not that I disliked it, I just thought it could have been handled differently. It's the only time I really thought like, maybe they should have done this, but we'll get to it.
From the way you're making it sound, it's something different than because I agree, this is the first episode where I was kind of just like, I don't like this thing, but by no means is it bad. It's just like, it wasn't for me.
Yeah, I don't know if we're talking about the exact same thing, but episode 4, they had just left Bill and Frank's, and we got our little video game section of Ellie looking at the porno mag in the backseat. Nice word for word recreation. Also, once another hint to showing, that she is gay, and this is pretty foreign to her. What else happened in this episode? Oh yeah, they show up to, do you remember the city? St. Louis?
It's the city in the show is Kansas City, but in the game it was Pittsburgh.
Okay. And they get blocked off, and they have to, go through the city, and they see it's completely shut down. And once again, right out of the video game, someone crying for help, and Joel being, a man of the land and of this time knows, oh, this is bullshit. This is
an ambush.
Yeah. So we get a little shootout. Ellie has to use that gun. Thank God she grabbed that gun. But Ellie gets her first attempted human kill. She had no problem. She would have finished him off if Joel was unable to, for sure.
So I really enjoyed the scene because it's very, very similar to the game. I was pretty disappointed that we don't get that scene where he's I think it's the same part where he smashes into a glass door where someone would get soda bottles out of or whatever.
Okay.
And he's about to get his neck pushed on to an open piece of glass. And I was just they avoided that and just became a shootout thing. I was like, oh, yeah, that's fine.
But one thing I liked, and it happened a lot more in Last of Us 2, is, you wound someone and you don't kill them and they'll plead for their life, and you in the game can make that choice. I mean, you kind of have to kill them.
Yeah, because eventually they'll just get back up and try to
kill you. Yeah, nobody ever runs away. That can maybe affect, if someone gives you a convincing enough story that you let them free, maybe you get more ammo than you would if you were killing them. But if this particular character got away, more bad guys would show up in a later thing. I'm surprised they didn't play with that.
Or even if it wasn't more bad guys, it was just a simple line of dialogue. It was just oh, Kyle said that they'd be around this area because you're always going to face the same number of enemies, but now the game recognizes oh, you let someone go, and they gave a hint as to where they are, but you were always going to face these.
Sure.
But that's a game mechanic.
And let's see. Oh yeah, so then we see that in the city, the people that the main enemy, it's not Fedra. It's not the Fireflies. It's something completely different, and is a town that had actually their revolution worked, and they rose up and they killed all the government officials. And as we see in episode 5, in not like a pretty way, like lynching people in the street, dragging them behind cars. It has devolved into absolute chaos. But this episode is great. We get a lot of jokes with Ellie, just like making her dumb knock knock jokes and her dumb puns. And it was a nice bringing down the walls between them and actually having a connection.
Yeah, I think a lot of shows can struggle with like balancing comedy and like drama, and especially a show like this where it's like post-apocalyptic. Every day you could die. No one is your friend. You always have to look out for yourself. It's nice that there's like moments of like, oh, we can find humor in here, and it's like child humor too,
Yeah.
which like makes it both adorable and like heartwarming.
Yeah.
And it just works. Even like when the joke is bad, it's still like, that's nice.
Yeah, that diarrhea joke is a stupid joke, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a great joke.
But kind of a simple episode.
This is my least favorite episode of the season so far.
Yeah, I would say so, just because it's the least eventful, but you kind of you need this for the setup for episode 5.
Yeah,
a lot of the episodes so far have just been one-offs, and this is the first kind of continuing story. But Melanie Linsky, not a role I'd ever see her. I thought I'd see her play, just like executing doctors, just for not being rats.
So that was episode 4. Now we're
That
on
was episode 5.
5.
No, she killed him in episode 4.
Oh, was okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's talking to him. Like,
right.
I held you, or I delivered you. And then goes in and just blows his brains out. But yeah, by the end of the episode, Joel and Ellie are trying to sleep. And, what are their names?
Henry and Sam.
Henry and Sam, pull guns on them. But episode 5, we kind of see the breakdown and them on the run and
it was the breakdown of the city.
Of the city, yes. Yeah. And the whole time it's just like, okay, I know that Melanie Linsky is going after these people, but like, what is so important about these two people? And turns out he was the biggest rat of them all, and gave up her brother because he was the head of the resistance, and it ended up killing him. And now she's dead set on revenge. And it's great because like, okay, is this guy a good guy? Did he do a good thing to save his little brother? Or was it bad because, like, she kind of has a point. He has this horrible disease in a world that can't really handle this right now. Does he deserve to really live in place of someone who could, like, do so much better? So it really plays with you of who are you rooting for in this?
Because in the game, Henry and Sam were just travelers, like Joel and Ellie. They had no connection to the city they were in. They were just like, they just kind of teamed up and were like, hey, we have like a paternity kind of bond, and these kids can have a bond because they're young, and it was just like a nice, balance of the game, and we just helping each other out. Where this was just like, nope, all these people are after me. You help me get out of the city, I'll help you get out. You protect me because I don't know how to like kill things.
And because of his one action, he doomed that entire city. Like, because they killed all the standing officials, and then by the end, all the rebellion gets completely slaughtered. So with one little lie to save his brother, he took out the entire city. So yeah, I guess kind of a bad guy.
So in other words, if you find yourself in a post-apocalyptic situation, let your family and friends die. Who cares?
Yeah.
Because it could just be even worse.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Butterfly effect and all that shit. So the thing I didn't love, eventually Henry gets bit. No, Sam gets bit.
We're just going to skip over.
Yeah, we'll jump around.
Jump around. Okay.
He gets bit, and Ellie tries to like save him with her blood, and he turns. And this is the bit I didn't think was handled that well. I think it's good, and but is Ellie so naive to think like my drop of blood is really going to save you? I really thought it was going to play out. She was going to do the drop of blood to calm him, then go into the next room and say, he was bit. We need to handle this now. And then you have the fight of, you can't kill my brother. You know what happens to the people in Ben. Maybe it's different, and then even Ellie going like, it was different for me. Maybe it could be different for him. And you have a little more of a back and forth, but they just wait till morning. He turns and he gets shot.
Yeah. Okay. So we are talking about the same thing, because this is the first scene where I was just like, I don't think this is like all the changes they've made. If they've either like made them on par, I think, or better, and this is the first one where I think it's lesser than the game version. Because in the game you don't know he's bit, and you just wake up the next morning and just like, oh fuck, and then like he dies so quick, so it's just all so jarring and fast, and then that Henry kills himself, and it's just like the whole scene just, I mean, it played out pretty much exactly like the game, but it's just how you find out is different, and it's a real it's like for people who play the game, it's like you knew this was coming, so you're not really losing out on anything. So I see like, oh, this will be different for people who have played the game. But like I can get behind the idea of just Ellie, like, let me try this thing and like comfort this kid because maybe this is all I got to do.
Yeah.
I can get behind that idea. But her just going to sleep, going like, yeah,
It's fine.
I probably fixed him, and because like we haven't seen it yet, but we know something happened to her. And like she got bit. She's seen people turn. She knows what happens. She's seen all this ugly stuff. So for her to just go like, all right, I'm just going to go to sleep is just kind of absurd to me.
I think you could argue she was staying up with him and fell asleep.
Okay, yeah.
You know,
because he did say stay up with me.
Yeah, but still, she would have gone to Joel and said something.
Yeah. So I didn't love that part.
But I do like that he reacted quickly, saw that even though this was his brother, this is an infected. And in this world, you know, there's no bringing these people back. And he knew he had to do the right thing and kill him. And in the heat of the moment, just like realizing all of this was now for nothing. And I have nothing. And it doesn't matter if these two people will bring me in and I could go with them. There's no point in living.
I think, it does add a lot of weight to, like before, they were just surviving and hadn't, but it's like, I doomed a city, possibly. And now my brother's dead. So what purpose do I serve?
And I really like when he revealed his wound, there wasn't these big musical stings. I was waiting for the music to start getting really ominous and or bombastic, and there was like no music during that whole time. It was just very matter of fact. I appreciate that.
How did you feel about the change from Sam being just a normal speaking kid to now being a deaf kid?
Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't hurt it in any way. I think they could have played into that where everybody's preoccupied fighting something, and then you see this like clicker is like sneaking up behind him and he doesn't hear it. But it doesn't ever become an obstacle in this world. So I think they didn't capitalize on it, but I think it was a fine change.
Yeah, like especially after watching movies like A Quiet Place, where like, oh, this could be useful in a survival scenario because like other people have to communicate where we can just kind of like signal to each other. And but yeah, I get what you mean when it's like you see and he just can't hear it. But I mean, he's grew up in this city that hasn't had clickers because they've all been put underground. So he probably hasn't even seen one before. Yeah. But yeah, it just seems like here's an opportunity to show a deaf character and how they function in this world, and then it's just like you immediately get rid of them. Have you been listening to The Last of Us podcast?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so I've been watching every episode because I like to get insight.
Do they do visual as well, or just audio?
I believe it's just audio. Okay. But it's with Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, the creators of the game and the creator of the show, and Troy Baker is hosting the show, and they talked about switching Sam to being deaf, and because like my only thought was they did this because I don't think they were like, it's not going to be as heartbreaking as it was in the game unless we make him smaller, more adorable, and have a disability. Yeah. So it's just like, that's the sole reason they did this, and they had like several like artsy reasons as to why. But in the back of my brain, I'm still skeptical. It's like, I think you guys just wanted to like make people even sadder than they were before.
All he needed was like a really sad, ragged teddy bear to be carrying around. You know, and constant tears streaming down his face.
I mean, the fact that they wore like that Super Sam like paint on his face, I thought was like the cutest thing ever. I really liked that. But yeah, I mean, I had no problem with the change. I just don't know if it really added a ton, but it was a fine change, and good representation. That actor is actually deaf, so good on them.
I will say, like, even though this has the biggest action set piece in it, this was probably one of my least favorite parts to play in the game when you're Joel and you have to do sniping stuff. It's not my strongest suit when it comes to video games, but it was nice to see, like, as soon as they're walking down the street and you see that gunshot, I was like, ooh, this sniper moment. Like, I remember this. And we get the underground, like, you know, preschool where people were surviving.
Yeah, it was
Like,
cool seeing the preschool. I was surprised. Like this show has been, and I don't know if it's like they don't want to just overplay it because being in a game, you have to go to all these different locations. Like, well, we can't just have them constantly like in the streets. Like, okay, well now we got to send them into the sewers. We got to send them to college. We got to like do all the stuff where there's like, oh, we're gonna send you to the sewers, but there's gonna be no
there's no monsters.
There's no monsters.
Giant spiders.
We said that's where they are, but that's not where they're at.
Yeah.
And so it was like interesting that they're avoiding these sort of like typical horror scenarios where it's just like, oh, we're in this dank dungeon essentially with tons of infected, and we don't know where they're at, and it's dark and scary. And it's just like, nope, that's the fine part. It's when you go above ground where you're really going to get screwed over, which was an interesting choice.
And we got to see a swarm, and how they put it at the end of the episode of like how the world actually really fell, because these things are vicious and they just clamor over each other to get to you. And
very World War Z.
Yes, but I like that it wasn't your typical zombie thing where it's instant bite. All zombies just like go for the bite on the neck. You see them like really they just tear at you. They just want to hurt you in some way. Yeah. Just very much like the game.
What did you think? This is, I think, the first time we ever see a child clicker.
Yeah, yeah.
Which was, I think from a video game standpoint, I guess, like, you don't want to necessarily like go around murdering children, but like there would be infected children, and it was like cool to see. And the little girl, the way she like moved was like really scary. So good for that little contortionist girl.
Didn't love the bloater. I felt it was a little clean looking. I wanted it to be a little messier. It just seemed like, I don't know, a suit. Like someone was in just a bloater costume.
I did like that they gave it its iconic kill, though.
Yeah.
So that was a nice touch. On the podcast, they talked about originally they had it like splitting him in half, like just picking him up and right in the torso. But I guess like he was just like, we found out that it's kind of hard to split humans in half, and the animation didn't quite work. Like we were real close to getting it, but then we just decided Neil decided like, oh, maybe we should just do this thing, which like is the iconic death move of the bloater where you just split a guy's head off.
Yeah, they did it in the Suicide Squad. King Shark ripped a guy in half, and it looked great. So it's possible.
Yeah, that movie's also filled with giant starfish monsters, and they have superpowers. Bloaters are just very strong men. They're not necessarily super strength. They can withstand bullets because they have like mushroom armor, essentially.
And we never really know, like, does everybody go through that phase of you're just a normal zombie, then a clicker, then you turn into a bloater, or can you jump that clicker level and go straight to a bloater? Is it something about your genes? Is it only just like really tall, big men that become bloaters?
This is why I've been enjoying listening to the podcast, because they kind of go into this.
Nice.
So Neil was talking about when we were coming up with the game, we had like the three enemy types of, you have the runners, which are just the newly infected, and then you have the clickers, which like the fungus has grown out of their eyes and their face and has sort of made them blind, so they use echolocation. And then so for the bloaters, there's so few of them because the bloaters are just very like strong men who are like too strong to really like die, because a lot of like the clickers who like if they live long enough, they can feel themselves dying and they'll go and like put themselves against the wall and just grow into the wall, and that's how they like sort of die. But some humans who are just very big and strong can kind of like resist that and just it just keeps growing inside them, and eventually they just become bloaters. So they're just humans who are too big to die.
Oh, wow. I'd like to see that be used where they go, oh my God, he's infected. And the person's like, well, yes, but I'm fighting it and trying to.
I don't mean necessarily that like they're fighting the disease. Like the disease gets them.
Okay, so
I just mean like their body strength and their immune system, I guess, is not even their immune system. It's just like they're just physically strong.
Something about their biology.
Something about their biology keeps them alive, unlike other things. Cool. So that was the video game sciencey explanation for it.
All right.
So that's why not everyone can become a bloater. Bloaters are just the big, tall, strong people of the world.
Got it.
So
before I forget, Annie Wershing, who did the voice of Tess in the video game, she died of cancer at 45. It was like 2 days after like the episode 3, I believe, or maybe even
I think it was
2.
the day of episode 3.
Yeah, but at least you got to see her character on show. Well, hopefully she got to see it. I don't know the details of everything, so that stinks. R.I.P.
Do we have anything else to say? I mean, we kind of talked about Melanie. I just say that I'm a big fan of Melanie Linsky.
Yeah.
Like, she's been around for a long time, been in a ton of stuff. There's the role that like I didn't see her as, even though like the first time I think I've ever really seen Melanie Linsky was on an episode of a couple episodes of The Shield, where she. A detective like kind of formed a connection with her because you were like, oh, she's a sweet girl who was abducted by this crazy guy who was like kidnapping women and stuff, and it turns out like she was like helping him. Like, you find out in a later episode she was helping him abduct these women.
That was on The Shield?
That was on The Shield, yeah.
I don't remember that. I did blow through that in like 2 weeks. So
yeah. Do you remember the guy and he like there was a woman in the shower and her like arm was severed, and I can't remember if he was eating it or he just like cut it off because she was like back talk. Whatever.
I don't remember that
I know
at
I know it was years ago. But anyway, so she actually played this like sadistic character way back when. But I mean, she's known for the sort of like sweet, awkward girl type.
She's like from 2.5 Men. She was like the crazy neighbor who was obsessed with Charlie Sheen.
And she's got this very sweet voice. So to see her like sometimes like her and that seeing her as the leader of this group, I was just like, why? Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, this isn't like, she's great, but I don't know if I believe this. But then the show explains why in episode 5. And you're like, I can buy it. That's the other interesting thing I have about the show. We keep meeting new characters and they die in the same episode or die shortly, or at least in the second episode you meet them, which is fine. It's just all these people who I think are just like, oh, it was so devastating to see Sam and Henry die. Just like, you knew them for an hour. Like, when I played the game, I knew them for like 4.
Yeah.
It's like, I spent so much time with them. Like, that's why it hurt, is because like I got to know them. It's like this, like, yeah, they're like sweet and like kind of innocent, and you can connect with them because they're just like Joel and Ellie. But like, I didn't, and this is obviously from someone who played the game, but just like, I don't think I connected with them in the same way as I did in the game because I spent more time with them in the game, where this is just like, I spent an hour with them and I'm supposed to like be devastated by this. It's like, that's the other thing that didn't quite work for me.
Especially since like Bill and Frank in the game, you don't spend much time with them, but in the show, you really do connect with them, even if it is just an hour, and you really feel for that pairing. Whereas this, it doesn't have the same emotional pull. I think it's still very effective.
Sure.
And I feel bad for everybody who's never played the game and is watching this, because every episode is just like, hey, what sort of devastating thing can we do this time? Oh, did you like these characters? Well,
now they're dead.
And it's every single episode. In episode 4, did someone die?
So episode 1, his daughter died. Episode 2, Tess died. Episode 3, Frank and Bill. Episode 4,
I mean, there was like the kid that Joel stabs, but he wasn't really like.
Yeah. 4 was the break, and then 5 was.
I guess the doctor who got shot. It's like people did die, but
people, yeah.
But you didn't connect with them. So 4 is like the nicest episode.
There's a beautiful love story in episode 3, but this is the nice episode because no one really important dies. And then episode 5, you have Henry and Sam. So yeah, it's been a pretty. Take that, Game of Thrones. Like, you had deaths, but you had to like wait to the end of the season to get to them. It's like, nope, we're just gonna kill off everyone you love instantly.
And I hope we
look out, Pedro Pascal.
I hope next episode we don't get any deaths like that, because we're gonna meet up with Tommy, and I totally kind of forgot that whole section of the game. I was thinking the next episode would be another on the road, and then 7 would be the snowy part where Ellie's alone, and then we'd get.
Spoiling.
I'm just saying, this is game stuff. And then, like, by the last 2 episodes, it's like getting there and then discovering the Fireflies. I totally forgot about Tommy even existing.
Yeah, I don't know if, and we're getting into like game 2 stuff, but the look of where Tommy's at is very similar to a location in the second game. And so I'm wondering, is this like where we will be later on next season, perhaps?
I think so.
Because in the game, Tommy's at a dam, like a power station that they've like taken over, and like that they use as kind of like a fortress, where this is just like, no, this is a town that we live at, and it just looks eerily similar to a location in Last of Us 2.
Which I think makes sense.
Yeah, it's like, why go 2 different locations, and we can like we'll establish them here, and then we have a basis to come back to later, which is fine.
Yeah. And there could always still be a dam. It's like, yeah, this is the town, and then we use the dam for power.
Sure. So yeah, any other thoughts about episode 5? The zombie horde reminded me of the Long Night in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, we're just going to have a whole bunch of zombies attacking people. It's going to be mass chaos. It's going to be shot at night, and there's only going to be like one light source. But you could see everything that was going on.
Yeah.
So I wonder if like Bella Ramsey was just like, God damn it, I did this like 2 years ago, guys. We're doing another like zombie invasion episode. Jesus Christ. It's even on the same network.
Yeah, what a lucky girl. Like, she's on 2 major, huge hits of shows, and her filmography is like 3 things.
Yeah. She's got a good agent, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, I think let's move on.
Okay.
I wanted to bring this up at the top, but so let me just pose or have you heard of AMC's new seating arrangement?
I have heard of AMC's new seating.
What do you think? Well, for those who don't know, all the middle seats are going to be like $2 more. The seats that are off to the side are like either regular price
think,
or maybe $1 more, and then the seats up front are regular price or maybe cheaper, something like that.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense. Like, concerts do it. Lots of live performances have that sort of premium seating costs. So it's not that big of a deal. And most movies I go are not sold out. So people are just going to be buying the cheap seats and then wait until the movie starts, and if no one's sitting in the middle, they're just going to migrate to the middle. So
yeah, I just don't think it's necessary. Like, everything I feel like in our world is just becoming subscription based and monetized in ways.
This
like,
plus upgrades.
And going to the movies should be like, I think, if you have to sit in those first like 3 rows where your like neck is craned up, make those discount tickets. I'm like for that by like $1 or whatever, $2. Who cares? I think, and this is just me, it doesn't matter if I'm all the way to the far left or in the middle or whatever. Like, if you're in that back section, I can see the whole screen fine.
Yeah, you're fine.
So like the idea of paying for, it's like, I don't want to be in that situation where like the only seats I can buy are the expensive ones.
Yeah.
It's like, they're the best seats in the house, but like, I don't give a shit about that. Like, I can sit anywhere and see the movie fine.
Handicap section, you know?
I think it's unnecessary and silly, and I don't think there is a bad movie theaters aren't designed to have bad seats, with the exception of those first few rows. And
they're only there because, like, why wouldn't you put seats there?
Yeah.
Because if someone's willing to pay money to sit there,
sure.
give them the opportunity.
So I'm, again, I don't live close to an AMC, so it has no effect on me. No. But if it becomes a trend, it's going to be kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious, as someone who has the Regal Unlimited, how that would affect me, or if I was just like, oh, you get to choose whatever seat you want.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Don't be charging me an upgrade after I've already paid, $300 for this thing.
Well, you still have the 50-cent convenience fee if you like book it on the thing. It's like they're still finding ways to charge you. It's like, no, I'm going to go to the theater. I'm saving myself 50 cents every time.
Especially like when they say like, oh, Ant-Man and the Wasp tickets are on sale. Well, I want to make sure I get a seat for that specific show. Yeah, I'll pay the 50 cents. I don't care. But if I'm already going there and it's 3:00 on a Tuesday afternoon, I'm not paying that 50 cents.
Oh, I have a little something. It's a movie we haven't seen yet, I'm pretty sure. But I just wanted to tell a little life story and a friendship story between me and you that some listeners might find kind of funny, I guess, maybe. So the new Magic Mike movie is coming out.
Yep.
You and I have not seen it yet.
Nope.
And I asked my wife, I was like, would you like to see this movie? Because it's a franchise that I am a fan of. And she was just like, well, I'm probably going to go see it with, some girlfriends. But you want to see it? Like, it was like a question of like, why do you want to see that movie? And I was just like,
your wife is questioning, like, did I marry a gay man?
And I was just like, well, I saw the first 2 and I really like those movies. They're good. And she's just like, you saw them? I was like, yeah, I saw them with Ben. And I remember the first movie came out and you and I went together and we were the only 2 dudes in the theater. It wasn't like a packed Friday night or anything like that. It was just probably like 20 other people in the theater, but they were all like women, probably in their like late 30s, mid 40s, that kind
Yeah.
of area. And I remember walking in and they gave us looks like, what the hell are these guys doing here? Um,
I'm sure they thought we were gay.
yeah, I was like, and our seats were wet, which is weird. No. But anyway, but yeah, I just like, just because of the content of the movie is just assume like two men can enjoy seeing a movie about men taking their shirts off and dancing erotically. Like if a story's good,
Yeah.
I'll see it.
I'm not there to ogle the sexy men. I'm there because
I'm a fan of Steven Soderbergh.
yeah, Soderbergh's great. I mean, he didn't do the second though, right?
He produced it, but he didn't direct it.
Okay.
I think he's directing this new one.
He did.
Yeah.
He is.
And actually, I like the second one more.
I really like the story of the second one.
The first one, I think you could argue is better film, but the second one is just a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Like I was like laughing and just I don't know. I just had a good time. I just had a good time.
And I was just so happy for like what's his name? Joe Manganiello, like the man with the penis so big that no woman can ever take him, and then finding
I found the Holy Grail, guys. Or the glass slipper or whatever it was called. Yeah.
It's silly and horny and sweet all at once.
Yeah, because the first one was very much a dramatic telling of just like there's like some drug use and like a guy who's like struggling to find his place, and it's like, this lifestyle is super fun, but it also like
but I want to settle down,
but it's kind of dangerous and stuff. And the second was just like, nope, we're doing a buddy road trip movie where we just happen to dance on women. It's
and
like,
a huge competition at the end, you know.
Yeah.
To save the ski resort.
And Donald Glover's in the second one.
Is he?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah, he was. He like had two singing scenes essentially, like when they go to the club where he runs into Jada Pinkett Smith, who like was his old pimp or I don't
Handler, really, I don't know,
whoever the leader of a group of male dancers is. I don't know. He was there, and he like his intro, he like sang a song to the ladies, and that was all fun. And then he like sang when Joe Manganiello comes out in like his wedding outfit, he was like the one singing the song. Okay. So he like didn't really have any dancing sequences per se, but he like was shirtless and was singing and stuff.
Okay.
And
yeah, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, he wasn't like a big focus. He was just kind of like a background character who was like with the group, but wasn't like the big show, you know? But anyway, I enjoy those movies, and it's funny that you and I have seen them together, and my wife doesn't want to see it with me, so you and I can see the third one together if you want.
I'm for it.
Just a dude's trip to Magic Mike. Let's go. One last dance, man.
Yeah, what are you doing tomorrow?
I think I have a friend coming over for like some work stuff, but afterwards, probably nothing, because I'm not going to like a Super Bowl party or anything like that.
Okay,
so
cool.
I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Yeah, let me know, because I'm doing my taxes tomorrow, and
because I'm looking forward to watching it. I think it looks fun.
Yeah, I'm not as thrilled to see this one as I was like going into the second one. Yeah, especially since the rest of the cast isn't going to be there as far as we know.
Yeah, it looks like the Channing Tatum show with Selma Hayek. Yeah. But anyway,
anywho. So now that we're 35 minutes in, let's
we talked about two things. I can rapid fire a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of mine isn't all that long, but I did finish Evil West. It was a very fun, very difficult game, especially the final two bosses. It took me a bit, and I gotta say, I'm letting you borrow it. Really use the zapper as much as you can, the block zapper, because it allows you to like pull enemies close or you to zip towards enemies. And so many times you have to be kind of far away from someone and shoot their target marks on their body, then they fall and you have to get to them quick. And by the time you run up and even do like a leaping punch, they're already getting out of their stun. So make sure you kind of like get used to that and really use it. I didn't, and I was probably worse for it, but it's very fun. It's a little corny. Whereas Ragnarok really gets into the emotion of the story. This one, they couldn't give two shits. They want to fly to the next set piece, and it'll just be, okay, we got to go do this thing. It's really important. And then it's like cuts real quick, and then you start the next level and you're like already there. There's barely like transition dialogue. No one's talking to you as you're traveling or anything. It does feel a little cheap, especially comparing that to Ragnarok being one of the last games I played. I think in a sequel, they really can flesh this out. Not that I want an open world, but I'd like a little bit of a different gameplay at times. I expected to be
It's
on.
very railroaded, like you're
It
going.
is,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I thought there would be a I'm on a horse and I'm chasing a stagecoach and I just
Mm,
have to shoot. There is like two times where you're in um, a mine cart and you
okay.
got to shoot some things. I'm like, okay, that was pretty fun. But I thought I'd jump on a moving train and have to like duck to like,
Classic Western
yeah.
stuff.
And it's none of that. It's like, oh, you go to an oil field and you're fighting in arenas, but it's not like you use the oil field to your advantage.
Mm.
You know, if something blows up, it's a stack of dynamite, and they're in every level. In this game, people leave their dynamite out everywhere. It's so wasteful. It's like 3 crates stacked on top, and it's spilling out of the top. But it's a really fun game. I'm not upset that I bought it at full price because I know 3-4 months it's going to be a free game on PlayStation.
Probably.
But good times. Just have fun with it.
All right.
What do you got, Steve?
I watched White Lotus season 2.
Okay.
I liked White Lotus season 2 a lot more than season 1. Season 1 was filled with a bunch of characters who I hated. They were all like bad people for the most part, and there wasn't really a ton of people to root for. And this one, everyone was still kind of a bad person, but they were like more relatable, and they weren't like inherently dickish. It was just like, yeah, they would do kind of like dickish things, but it was like kind of more just in their nature as who they are as a person, not so much
Okay.
as just like they're just being mean and totally like aloof about it, or just like,
Mhm.
oh, we just have money, so
Yeah.
like who cares about these people? Like a lot of these people had money because they're going to an Italian resort and like spending a ton of money on this stuff. But I think you would enjoy season 2, particularly for the 2 prostitutes.
Okay.
The
And
sex,
me and my hookers. I'm a big fan.
the sex worker characters were actually like a lot of fun, and the 2 like most pleasant people on the show.
Okay.
And even though they were kind of doing this like taboo, possibly dangerous work, they were just like so charming the entire show. You're just like, man, I hope that they like get out of this lifestyle, or like
Hmm.
they one up on these people or whatever it is. Like they were a lot of fun. And I think the acting's great. It's well directed. It's beautifully shot. There's tons of nods to like Italian cinema and all that.
Is this like a one director show or is it different directors?
I
for
believe every
episode
episode is directed by Mike White
Okay.
again. Yeah, and written. I think it's
Damn.
he just did 2 shows and they got renewed for a third. And it's a show that like I still like cover my face at times because I'm like, oh my god, this is like so embarrassing.
Love your cringe.
And I God, it makes me uncomfortable. But it's nowhere near as bad as season 1, so I think that's why I enjoyed season 2 a lot more. And unlike season 1, where you can kind of see like kind of everyone had almost everyone had an unhappy ending, like not necessarily in a like their lives are ruined kind of way, but
Hmm.
it's like, oh, that's unfortunate that this is where your story ends.
Okay.
Where this one, like all these people are still kind of bad people, but they all get a happy ending in a sense. And so
Okay.
like that made the ending more enjoyable for me. And I don't think that really spoils anything. Only one character doesn't get a happy ending,
Okay.
I would say, but it was just it was a lot more charming show than before. So it has me hooked enough for season 3 where it's like if season 2 is like season 1, I don't think I'm going to come back to the show. So
Okay.
season 2 was a vast improvement in my opinion.
Have they said where season 3 is going to take place?
No, because I think they just got renewed like 3 weeks ago or
Oh,
something.
okay.
I don't
I'm
think
going to say ski resort.
I could see
Or are
it.
they generally like tropical? Because aren't both of them sunny and beachy?
Yeah, the first one was Hawaii. This one was like an Italian resort by the
Okay.
water in the summertime.
Hmm.
Uh,
I guess that makes sense. But people do
I think
go
a ski resort could be fun just because it would be a opposite location.
Mhm.
But I don't know if they want to like keep it somewhat hot and
Yeah.
like
Oh,
by the
we're going
water,
to the Bahamas.
so we can
Woo!
like have attractive people in bikinis or
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
Yeah, that is a good reason.
That's it for Lotus season 2.
Okay. I started 3 television shows.
Jesus.
Yeah. 2 I may not be able to continue. They're on Apple, and my buddy's Apple is giving them problems, and I can't get into the service right now. One, I'm probably for sure not going to continue. One, I will if I have access to. So I'm going to start lowest and go to the highest.
Okay.
So the one that I'm probably not going to come back to is called The Ark. Do you know what this is?
Nope.
I believe it's a sci-fi channel show, which that should generally turn people off. Most people don't like sci-fi channels television, but they've had like Battlestar Galactica, and I believe it was The
I think
Expanse,
it started on Sci-Fi, but
and
then
then
it
went to
moved to
Amazon.
something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
they've had really good shows, and they are willing to take risks, and it's different sci-fi. It's not
Hmm.
just the same old thing. Unfortunately, they just don't always get the best actors. The production value isn't always as good. So this one is a ship with thousands of people on it, and they're going to this habitable planet. They're going to be the first colonizers there, and something happens. And they're woken up from their cryopods, and they get everybody safe. There's huge damage done to the ship, and they find out all upper management is dead. All the like top minds who were running the ship, who were the agricultural people, everybody, they're all dead. Everybody who's left, which I don't know, maybe it was like 200 people, they're like C string, and they don't know how to do fucking shit compared to these people, and they have to band together to try to survive the remaining flight, because they have like an hour. Jesus, can we get through an hour of this flight? Oh, let's start eating each other. They have like a year left. And so they have a person who like, oh, I brought some soil with us, we can start planting food because we only have like 11 weeks of food left, and yada yada yada. But it has a lot of the similar tropey things, like, oh, this guy wasn't supposed to be on the flight, he took the spot of someone else, and this person has a secret from their past they don't want to be revealed. So it's pretty typical, and the actors aren't great. I'm probably gonna pass.
Hmm.
Second show.
I'm guessing the show is called Ark because that's the name of
Ark. Yes.
the name of the ship.
The name of the ship was the Ark.
Yeah.
Because Earth's dying, and we got a shuttle. Blah 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 blah.
And please tell me, is there a character named Noah at
I
all?
wish it was like Captain Noah or something like that.
Waste.
But
Okay.
hey, we only were introduced to so many characters. There could be more later, but I'm not.
Do you know if this was based on a book series or anything like that?
I did not look into
Okay.
that.
I don't care.
Second show, it's an Apple Plus original called Shrinking with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford.
I saw the trailer for this. It looked moderately cute.
Yeah, so by what's his name, Brett Goldstein from Ted Lasso.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of his shows, and it's Jason Segel. He's a psychiatrist, or he's a therapist, and he like shares an office with I can't remember her name, but a young woman who's a therapist, and Harrison Ford, who's the older, grumpier one. And his life is in a complete meltdown. His wife died like a year ago. He can't connect with his daughter anymore, because every time he looks at her, he sees his wife, and he's drinking and buying prostitutes, and his life's kind of in ruins. So he starts telling his patients like, "Shut the fuck up. Your problems are stupid," and he just being more honest with them. Like this woman who refuses to leave her husband, who's an absolute piece of shit, keeps justifying all these things, and so he just like sets her straight. She leaves him and thinks, oh well, this is actually good, so he starts getting involved with his patients' lives in a more honest way, and sometimes it's for the better, sometimes it's for worse. It's pretty interesting. I'm enjoying it. I think it's trying a little too hard to be cute and wholesome, but still have an edge. Yeah, some of the dialogue isn't as believable, but yeah, I'll continue if I could get access to it. And also, what's his name? Ted McGlinty. He was on Married with Children. He was Jefferson Darcy, the next door neighbor. It was Marcy's second husband. He's great. I haven't seen him in anything for a while, and he's just like the husband. He's a neighbor. He's the husband of what's her name? She was on Drew Carey show and Scrubs.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
that woman.
Dr. Cox's wife.
Yeah.
She's like really involved with his life, and is like, hey, you need to get your shit together because you have a daughter to look after. And so she kind of has been taking these mom responsibilities. So her husband, Ted McGlinty, whatever his name is, he's always just like, oh, hey, honey, you need help over there? Oh, no, I'm good. Oh, thank God. And like goes away. And you may have seen it. It's been, I've seen it on like Instagram and TikTok a lot, where he pulls up and there's an argument with a neighbor, and the neighbor Pam is like this Karen type character. And he's just like, oh, hey, everyone. Oh, hey, Pam. And his wife's like, no, stop. We don't like Pam. I'm like, oh, okay, got it. Eat a bag of dicks, Pam. So he's just a fun character that pops in, has a fun couple of lines, and then leaves.
I'm going to develop that mentality as a soon-to-be new dad.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't like this person? Fuck him.
Yeah. So that one's, pretty good. But the show I really want to recommend is Poker Face on Peacock with Natasha Lyonne, written by Ryan Johnson.
Oh, I didn't know Ryan Johnson was involved. Yeah. I have seen Natasha Lyonne's face on like
with
a
the sunglasses
thumbnail. Yeah, I've seen that everywhere, but I have no idea what the show's about.
So let me lay it on you. Natasha Lyonne is a human lie detector. She can tell when anybody's lying for any reason. They don't get into it. It's not like, oh, everybody has a certain tell. It's just she knows.
This sounds like an NBC mentalist type show already.
I think there was a show called like Lie to Me or whatever. Which was
with Tim Roth.
Yes, I think it was pretty much the same thing. So you just have to kind of like roll with it.
Well, the premise hasn't hooked me, but go ahead.
But the fun thing about this show is it starts off with someone getting murdered or dying in some way. You see who dies, you see why, and you see who does it. And then we jump back and we see how Natasha Lyonne was kind of there the whole time, just like maybe around a corner or working behind the bar. And she has to kind of figure it out. We know all the answers, and so the journey is watching her get all the answers. And so she'll just see someone talking on the phone and go like, bullshit, that person's lying. Why are they lying about that one stupid thing? And keeps digging, keeps asking questions, and discovers the truth. And by the end of the first episode, it was like a casino thing. She was blacklisted because she was taking a lot of people's money. She was just good at reading, she could tell if they're lying. A casino owner took her under his wing and pretty much blacklisted her from anything and said, like, you can work for me and you won't get killed by these people that you kind of scammed. And so now Adrian Brody runs the casino, and he's like daddy's boy, and everybody knows he's kind of a loser. And so he has this big scheme to use her and use her special powers so they can make a bunch of money. So by the end of it, she is on the run from casino people, and every episode is just like, oh, she stopped at this gas station to, get a sandwich. Someone ends up dead, solves the crime. But since she has people tailing her, she can't go to the cops. So she also has to figure out why they did it, how they did it, and then get them in trouble with the cops without actually doing it herself. So she has to come up with really unique ways of making them either self-incriminate or tells someone who runs a true crime podcast and exposes the people. So it's five or six episodes out right now, total of 10. It's really good. Every episode has like someone famous in it, like what's his name, Little Ray Howard. Little Rel Howard. Yeah. Adrian Brody, Benjamin Bratt, Judith Light, who's came out of nowhere. Like she was on Who's the Boss? She was Angela for years, disappeared, and then she started showing up in like American Crime Story and this, and I had a third thing ready, but it completely went away. But it's nice seeing Judith Light. But there's famous people in each one. One episode is about like a barbecue man who wants to give up his whole barbecue empire because he watched Okja. And, and it's like it's really fun, it's silly, and I'm really liking it.
I mean, it's interesting that Okja was the thing to do it, considering there's so many like graphic documentaries about how horrible meat industry is. It's like no, if I see an imaginary hippo creature like getting raped and murdered,
gives him a bunch of movies, and they're all kind of like dead animal movies. And that one is the one that puts him over the edge.
Okay, that's funny. Okja's a good movie, folks. Go see
really
Okja.
Is.
Not Bong Joon's strongest, but it's definitely still a good one.
But I think definitely something to maybe show kids at when they're young, and so they can understand. Okay, maybe it's good propaganda if you want your kids to become vegetarians or vegans.
Yeah, probably.
It's just one of those movies that, like, when you see things from another perspective, it really, affects you. It didn't stop me eating meat because I don't have to watch the Okja get killed. All right, what else you got, Steve?
All right, I'll do 2 shows and a book I'll do. You did 3. I'll do 3 really quick,
Okay, and then I'll do my book after your book.
and then I just have the 2 movies that I know we both seen.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I have, yeah, the movies. I have my book, and then I got one special.
Okay. So I watched season 2 of The Legend of Vox Machina.
I was gonna ask.
On Amazon Prime. Surpasses season 1 by far.
Yeah.
Tons of fantastic action sequences, really badass moments. The most popular character, I think, in the campaign on their live stream was Scanlan, who was the bard, who like
the little guy, right?
The little guy who just like likes to have sex with things
the
and
horny
like
little musician
and tell penis jokes. They really, I think, wrangled him in. Like he's still very much that character,
Good.
but all of his songs are great. He's not doing like a hip hop song. Like there's a metal song in this that is fucking badass.
All right.
He gets a lot of great stuff. Like, and he still has like dick and butt jokes, but they're not nearly as like cringy or bad. Like the humor, I think, is leveled out. It's kind of found the balance more of just like, yeah, the show has some silly moments, but we're very much like dealing with very serious things. Characters get new weapons that are like or armor that's really cool that like gives them cool abilities. It was just a lot more fun, a lot more dramatic, and you get backstories to more characters. Season 1 was very much about like Percy, the guy with the gun, and his story. This season is more about like Grog and stuff Vex is going through. So season 2, I think, surpasses season 1 in every way. I don't know if it's just like season 1 was a hit, but they weren't sure if it was going to be. So they were like, Amazon's like, here's a bunch more money.
Yeah. Go all out.
Or go all out. Yeah. So season 2 has been fantastic.
Do you know how long this campaign would go in seasons?
So if I remember reading or hearing someone talk correctly, basically there was 5 kind of like major arcs in the campaign. So it was going to be 5 seasons, but but this arc that they're currently in is like too big to do in one.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be 6 seasons, and they're breaking up this second arc into 2 spaces. So I'm saying 6, but maybe it goes longer. And their second campaign that they finished, I think, a year and a half ago, or maybe almost 2 years, that got greenlit. So now they're getting a second animated show about their next campaign.
I mean, that just seems smart to do.
Yeah, and they're currently in their 3rd campaign, and so by the time by the time they end the first season, they might be on the campaign 5 if they're still going, which is crazy that they just might have like 3 to 5 or however many anime shows or whatever they want to do.
What a great gig. Hey, I hung out with a bunch of friends. We did some D&D. We recorded it. It was really good. And then we got shows based off of it.
Yeah, like from a production standpoint, it's just like our show that we made like for live stream cost us essentially nothing. Like we had to buy $30 books, which they didn't even really
have sets and cameras and editing and
I mean, they definitely like they had miniatures and stuff, but Matt Mercer, the guy who runs it, like he had a lot of that stuff. And then like now they have like a big set that the cost is, they spent a ton of money on the set, the better cameras, like there's a lot more production, but like they pay crew, like it's expensive now. But before it was just like we pretty much set up like 3 cameras in a garage, and now we're like millionaires. It's great.
Sounds rough. I heard the show starts with a bang, like the stakes are like instantly raised.
Episode 1 is awesome. Like it's not my favorite episode, but just say that dragons show up, and there's one dragon in particular who does like the coolest thing I've ever seen a dragon do, and I'm like, episode 1 is huge. It's mass destruction. It's fantastic.
That's the coolest thing a dragon can do.
That
you've ever seen. I can't even imagine.
I'll just play it for you.
No,
or you go watch it.
I mean, well, that's what I want to ask.
Because you didn't like the first season.
I like the story and I like the animation. I just hate all the characters. None of them really spoke to me.
Okay.
Am I gonna like this more?
Well, I don't remember exactly what you didn't like about. Like, they're all still very much who they were season 1, but maybe just not as annoying.
Okay. That's a good start.
Yeah. If I remember season 1, how I'm imagining you're imagining, because I don't think no one is doing like stupid stuff really to do stupid stuff other than Grog, but that's because he's stupid.
Guy, yeah.
He's a stupid guy, but like there's a lot of Grog stuff this season that's like really good, that like gives his character like motivation, and he's got some really great fights. I just think it's a vast improvement across the board.
Was it 10 episodes?
12 episodes.
Okay.
but they're all half hours, so they go by fast.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure if I should bother.
Yeah, the only thing that I still don't love is like the incorporation of like when they're fighting giant creatures like dragons or other things that pop up. It's 3D animation mixed in with the 2D.
Yeah.
And I think it's cleaner than season 1, but it's still very like season 1 took me a while to get used to, where this like it didn't bother me as much.
Okay.
But it's still kind of just like, yeah, it just seems weird that this is like this. But yeah, it's great, and I'm excited for future seasons because this season really, really surprised me.
Cool.
Second thing I watched, it's a show that I know you've seen. I don't know if you finished all the seasons. I believe you have. Me and my wife watched season 1 of Search Party.
Oh,
yeah. I think some people suggested it to my wife, and I was just like, I'll watch it if you want to watch it. And season 1, it's fantastic. Like, I wasn't quite sure how they were going to manage a tone of just like, this is a comedy, but it's dealing with very kind of like serious material. And the mystery of it all is like really intriguing. Where it ends up is like surprising in a way.
What's her name? The missing girl?
Fuck, we just like finished it yesterday. Hey, babe. Sharon.
She's like the worst.
Oh, well.
Oh my god.
I know we said spoilers for everything, but John Early, I believe his name is. He is so funny like this show like actually like made me like laugh out loud. Oh god, we watched just the first episode or the first 2 episodes of season 2, and there's a part where they're in the car and they're just like, and someone doesn't have they have a fake passport, and they're just like, we'll just tell them that that we just picked them up on the road and we didn't know they had a face passport. Oh, we let him sit in the front seat. And just the way he was like freaking out was just so funny.
Him and Alexis. Is that her name? The blonde?
Yeah, I don't. I'm just gonna pull it up.
Okay, she's really good. I think she gets better with every season. I think
she was my least favorite of the. Well, Alicia Shawkat's kind of the worst.
She is the worst.
But that's because she's just
through every season she's the worst. But
she's like good. The best actor, maybe.
Yeah.
But she's the worst of the group of 4. Drew is a character. I remember Drew because I have a connection with Drew because we're both tall, lanky white guys with glasses. And he was such a dweeb in like the first episode or 2. I was just like, why this guy? And then by the end of season 1, I'm like, yeah, I'm on team Drew. He's like the most logical. He's the least dickish of all these people. Like, yeah, maybe he's like the most unfun of the group. Like he's not the guy you like want to talk to at a party, but he's like the wrangler. He's like wrangling them in and keeping like a level head despite some like crazy stuff that goes down. And he's really got some funny lines. I love Drew.
Yeah. It's just such a great cast. And I wish I'm glad the show got to finish on its own terms.
I heard season 4 and 5 aren't great. Like it's good till 3. And this is just from what I heard. But
it's just
season 5 all through.
Don't expect anything from the next season. Whatever you think the story is going to go to, it's not going to do that.
So there's Dory, Drew, Elliot, and Portia. Alexis is from Schitt's Creek. I think that's why you're thinking of it, because they're both kind of like ditzy rich girls.
Yes.
But yeah, that main cast is great, and it was constantly surprising and keeping me engaged with the mystery and made me laugh, and it blew me away.
Good. I'm glad you're liking it. I can understand why people don't like the later seasons, but I find it all very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a show for everyone. I think a lot of people I don't think an older audience will like, because it's like the millennial generation, and I can see I don't get the show.
Yeah.
And then I think people were just like, oh, I heard this show was funny. It's not like a joke a minute kind of show, like
it's not Kimmy Schmidt.
It's not Kimmy Schmidt or anything like that. So it's like, well, it's not really that funny, but like when the jokes hit, they fucking hit, man. They're great. Okay, so one last thing before we get into my last 2. I finished a book.
Okay.
I've talked about the Chronicles of Narnia on here a couple times. I finished book 5 of the series, Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Okay.
It has all the coolest ideas of any of the Narnia books, and does nothing with them. I think I just don't really like C.S. Lewis as an author. Like, I understand, like, I'm like 20 years older probably than the target demographic of these books. It's just, I remember like really enjoying the stories of the previous ones, but going like, this doesn't feel like all that really fantastical, or it's just like, there's not enough like character development. Everyone's just kind of like there and like reacting to a thing, but like no one's really like doing anything all that interesting. And that still continues in this, but they keep going to all these different like islands, because this is essentially the story of the book is 3 kids from the human world go to this fantastical land known as Narnia, but they're put on this ship and they just travel to these islands looking for these like lost Narnian men who like went out and searched the seas. And they keep running into like all these really interesting, cool things that just amount to like nothing.
Yeah.
Like they go to an like what's called like the Dark Island. It's essentially just like a black hole tunnel that they go through, and they go in there and they find one of the guys who's just been floating there for like years, and he's like, "We need to get the fuck out of here." And they're like, "Why?" It's like, "This is the place where dreams come true." And they're like, "That sounds great." Like, great dreams. Like, no, like not daydreams, like things that are like dreams. Like anything you've ever had a dream of, it's in here. And like they all start hearing different things, and it just seems like the most terrifying sequence in a children's book I've ever heard. It's so fucking cool. And then a bird shows up and they're like, "This is the way out." And then and like they don't see anything. They just kind of get scared of the dark for a while, and then they're out. And
do they do that in the movie? Because I never saw the third movie.
I did see the movie. I don't remember anything but the end.
I just remember there was a dragon.
Yeah. Well, I'll get to that too. So this is the part of the book that I had the most the biggest problem with. Like, so one of the characters gets turned into a dragon, and they Eustace, correct. Played by young
eyebrow kid
from We're the Millers and soon to be Adam Warlock. Oh, Will Poulter.
Yes,
couldn't think of his name. And he gets turned into a dragon, and they quickly figure out, oh, that's Eustace in a dragon's body. And then it's like, well, how are the Duke boys going to get out of this situation? And
another bird.
And so basically they like go to sleep after dealing with this, like trying to figure stuff out. And then one of the kids wakes up like a couple hours later and he's just like back to normal. And they're like, "Why aren't you a dragon anymore?" And he was like, "Well, I was asleep and then a lion showed up and told me to take off my clothes, but I was a dragon. I didn't have any clothes." So he's like, "You got to peel off." So he rips off his own like dragon scales with his claws, but he like keeps shedding like more and more layers. So he keeps pulling it off. And then eventually he's just like, "All right," the lion's like, "Now get into this pool." And so he gets in the pool and then comes out as a boy. And then he's like, well, and he's like, now he's wearing like human clothes. And his cousin's just like, "Well, how'd you get these clothes if you like went into the pool as a dragon and came out naked as a boy?" He's like, "Oh, I don't remember that part. It didn't know." It's just like Aslan showed up, like made a little boy like take off his clothes,
get into the bath,
and he came out naked. And then he doesn't remember how he got back, and he's fully clothed. It's
Aslan, no!
It's so like creepy, and it's so like date rapey a little bit. It's like, I know that is clearly not the intention. Like Aslan is very much like
Jesus.
He's God essentially in this world. And it's just an odd sequence. And there's just so many other moments, not necessarily like that, but just like they go to they find a pool of water that if they dip anything in, it turns to gold. But then it's like, oh, it starts corrupting them, and like, oh, well, how are we gonna like cultivate this and like use this to our advantage? And then they just like go back to the boat and like, "You know what? We can't ever come back here because this is bad." And like that's just it. It's just like constantly like finding a cool idea and then just like abandoning it. Because like I don't know if it's like the book kind of going like, look at all these places that could like lead to temptation. Like here's greed, here's this, and they all kind of just go like. And anytime they like are about to go too far, Aslan kind of like shows up in some sort of form and just like, don't do it. And then he's like, "Okay, Aslan, you're right," because they just believe in him so much. And it's just so weird like that. They go to this one place that has a sorcerer, and it has this book that like she's flipping through the book, and the book is like this is one of my favorite parts in the book is she's like flipping through the pages, and there's like a spell to see who's talking about you, and like as she's reading it, she can like see a girl from her world, and like it's like she's like there, and then it's like there's a lot just cool spells that appear in this book, and it's just like, "Well, you shouldn't have read that book," and she's like, "I'm sorry." And then they just go about their day. It's like, it's so frustrating. I was like, there's so many ideas in this book that would have been incredible if like you did a deep dive and these characters had like arcs, and it's like, oh, they did this thing and it like affected them negatively in this way. And there's tiny bits of it, but like nothing ever really comes of it because like they just believe in Aslan and do whatever he says, and then things just work out pretty much.
And that's the message: believe in God, and everything will work out.
Essentially,
avoid temptation, believe in God, and you'll be fine.
Like I get it, and I think that C.S. Lewis should get credit for like coming up with this world and like interesting. Like there's a lot of great
interesting of a world.
There's a lot of great fantasy ideas here.
Sure.
It's just none of them ever really get fleshed out enough to make me like. I think the Narnia books could be phenomenal if they were like written for adults, but because they're written for children, like all these ideas are kind of thrown away.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame. So I'm gonna finish the last two, and I've heard the last one's like bad.
Yeah. Well,
it's like,
what's the name of it?
It's called The Last Battle, and I think like the book is mostly a giant battle, but it's the twist ending that everyone's like, this is dumb. Okay. And I won't get into that until I read.
What's 4 called?
No. So this was 5. Book 6 is called The Silver Chair.
Oh, yeah, I like Silver Chair.
And book 7 is The Last Battle.
Okay. There's some fun stuff I remember, or at least there's a fun thing in the final one, if it is the same book I'm thinking of.
Like I've gone on, I guess Reddits or like a Google like ranking the Narnia books to see what other people think, and everyone's just like, well, all these books, this, but like Eustace is the worst. And it's like the last 3 books are pretty much all Eustace. Mm-hmm. So it's like if he's the worst, and I have the last 2 books are him. I mean, I know he's not as annoying as he is in this book.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So. As a lover of fantasy, and you talked about previous week, like, Steve, I feel like you're finding all these books and they're all the best books you've ever read. I am reading trash.
Okay, that's good.
So the Narnia books aren't great, but as a fan of fantasy, I'm giving them their due credit. There is excellent ideas here, just not written for me.
Okay. Well, I also read a book. As I said last time, I finished Assassin's Apprentice. Pretty good.
Good.
I like that. There's no big battle scenes.
Nope.
Like you were talking about, like, oh, there's a war going on with like the Red Ship Raiders. Is that what they're called?
Something like that, yeah.
Something. And it's like, yeah, that's a bad thing that's happening, but it's over there. That's not the point. There's no huge knife fights or jumping out of an exploding building. Nothing like that. It's just kind of this kid learning some stuff, kind of being dicked around by all these people who are using him as a political pawn and teaching him things and killing people and making friends and deciding not to kill people and then getting almost killed himself. It's kind of a low-key book.
It's super low-key, but it's awesome.
It's pretty good. And I really like the ending of him, like he's like writing his memoirs and you know, oh, things are getting a bit foggy for me and the boys telling me to go to bed. And so I'll be interested in seeing where it goes. I don't know if I could see it being adapted, though. I think it might be super boring.
Well, that's the big issue is, like, do you make it like, I think the only way it could really exist is through a series because it is, like, on the thicker side.
Sure.
Not like a crazy long book. Like, it's not Game of Thrones.
No.
But it's, like, it's so dialogue heavy and so character driven, and you do need to set up a lot of things and establish the world. Like, I can only really see it as a series. But I think it would.
I don't think it needs to be a long series.
No, I think it would be like 6 episodes. Yeah. It would be like each season, I guess, would be like a mini series or whatever. Because I don't like I said, there's not a ton of like major events, but I think you could probably do some TV adaptation stuff where you like change the story a little bit, make a little bit. I'm not saying like put him in battles or things, but like you could show more crazy things going on. You could do an episode of backstory of Burrich and his time in the.
Sure.
Sorry, do you have a favorite character? Night Eyes?
Not really. Actually, I kind of like, what's her name?
Molly?
Molly, yeah. Okay. Yeah, just a like scrappy young girl, had a shit life, but pulled herself up by her bootstraps. And
she runs like a candle shop.
Candle making thing. And yeah, it's a like.
Not runs it, but like works at it with her dad.
Well, no, it's hers. Her dad's a drunk and doesn't leave his chair. So yeah, it's hers. I like that, you know, like she met a guy and, you know, Fitz is all kind of like butthurt because it's like, oh, that's my girl, but she is like 2 years older than me and I'm just like a little boy to her. But I know it's like, I'll wait till book 3 when they finally get together. I know it. One thing that I hated at the beginning, but then was very thankful, was how they name their offspring and of royalty.
I hated that for like the first few chapters, but then by the end I was like, I dig it.
I like it, but it's almost like, oh, this is King Shrewd. And it's like, oh, well, thanks for condemning me to this life. And like, oh, and this is Prince Pervert. Like, come on, really? Okay, I guess I'll go look through this peephole and spy on the women. Or it's like, oh, this is someone, this is Princess Loyalty. And it's like, man, I really wanted to cheat on my husband. Like, I feel
Well, they're known for those traits, but I think a lot of times, if I remember correctly, they're like, yeah, we live this life kind of like we keep up this persona because this is our name, but they're still doing shady shit on the
oh yeah,
side.
yeah. But it's just like I am now pigeonholed into trying to live
Appear
up to
this way.
that
Yeah.
standard that you set on me. But it also made it much easier to figure out who the fuck everyone was because so
Mhm.
many books, especially like doing the Red Rising, where everybody had like four fucking names, it was very confusing on who is who. And so to have this like, oh, I know that character trait. I remember that character doing this thing that it corresponds to their name. I get it.
Mhm.
I did look at a family tree at one time because I was like, wait a minute, wait, was that his uncle or is that his father they talking about? And I got a little confused and I saw I'm like, oh, okay, now it all makes sense now. Um, but I wasn't expecting like superpowers, like
Mhm.
like mind control. Was it the the skill
Yeah.
is the good one, where you can communicate across, vast distances through the mind and like either like drain their power or force someone to do something. And then there's the evil naughty one, the wit, I think it's called.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds about
where
right.
it's you can talk to animals, and if you
Yeah.
do that too much, you might become like a horrible beast person. Which I heard I didn't pick up because I'm dense, but it's like, oh, this is kind of like in universe homosexuality. It's like people know it exists, but it's the dirty, gross thing, and
Mm.
you do not do it. You do not talk about it because if you indulge in it, you're gonna turn into one of those like really gross homos. So
I think that would be kind of a funny scene. It's just like you see like two dudes just like hardcore like banging each other, and then you just see one kid like going like, "Oh, hey, little squirrel!" Like, ugh, gross, get him out of here! As they just, woof, yikes. Anyway,
But
uh,
there are parts where, so like he's training to learn the skill
mhm,
with evil headmaster or whatever, and then they all get sent away to far parts, and they have to like wait for the signal to come and then find their way back. And I know it's like a ploy to they drop him in a bad part of the
mhm,
neighborhood on the wrong side of the tracks, hoping that he will die. They never send him like a message to like, hey, come follow
right.
me or whatever. And I was like, ooh, this is gonna be real exciting of him getting home. And it was like real quick. And like, oh, it was kind of scary. And there was these bad husk people. What I can't remember what they're called.
Mm,
Forged
yeah, yeah, yeah.
people. And then I just made it home. I'm like, oh, okay. I thought this was gonna be like a real trial for him, but it was just like, yeah, I just did it.
Now I don't want to spoil anything because I think this is in book one. Now I know at the end of this book he has one in quotation successful assassination.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the big event at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But he has killed other people before because he's like dropping like poison cheese
Yeah,
or something, correct? Okay.
yeah.
But I mean, it's just of those forged people, I believe.
I mean, he actually kills them. Like he actually swings swords on those people.
Oh, okay.
But I think in the beginning, one of his first things, he had to put something in someone's wine, and he did it.
Okay.
And then the last one was, I poison you, you poison me, you're gonna die. Your sister
Right, right.
forgives
Well,
me
yeah,
for it
yeah. I knew that
all,
one.
and yeah.
I had a memory of like him, like, oh, these things were after me. And so I would occasionally like leave food behind because I know they would eat it. And I
Oh,
just happened.
maybe.
Okay.
Now see,
So it's like
I
he's killing people, but it's not like assigned assassinations, really,
yeah, I
with
guess
the
he
exception of
did
like
that
the last one.
as well. Knowing with the audiobook app I use, I only get it for 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and it was like 17 hours long, and I only really listen to my audiobooks in the car when I'm going to and from work. So I needed to crank it up a little. So I had to listen to it on 1.5
Okay.
speed. I usually listen to about 1.25, and I cranked it down to 1, and the author was speaking like this. so then, and I was like,
Yes.
oh my god, this is so slow. And then you go a little fast, and then it's like, and it sounds like a little chipmunky. So like 1.25 is where I like to go, but I had to go to 1.5 to get through it, and I do think I kind of missed some of the
Okay.
details, especially at the end. Like I didn't even grasp that it was him writing his autobiography until I was like, wait a minute, oh, that ended real quick. Okay, let me go back, and then since I had time to finish it, I cranked it back to one, and it was like, oh, I'm getting a little more information. So I will say some of it's probably lost on me because
Mhm.
I am just plowing through it, and it is easy to get distracted while you're driving and not listen for a minute, and that may be crucial information. So there can very well be things that I missed.
Uh, so do you plan on reading two
I
or
do, yeah.
okay?
I have a 6 week wait
Okay,
before it's my turn to get the book.
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think book two is probably my favorite. Book three is still great, but there's a huge chunk in like the back half where it's just like we're kind of stuck in this place and not like going anywhere.
Okay.
Which like there's some interesting stuff there, but it's just like taking a while to like, all right, get to whatever it is we're getting to.
Hmm.
But book two, like a lot of stuff happens, and Robin Hobb is known for putting her protagonist through the ringer. Like
Hmm.
this first book, a lot of people are just like, Jesus Christ, like his pregnancy was rough. There's like 3 dead dog scenes.
One's a fake
one,
out.
one's a fake out. But it's just like every time it's like, oh, the dog, oh man, that dog was so sweet, and they killed it. Oh, it's not dead, and it immediately dies. It's
Yeah.
like, fuck.
I was like, they had a line like, man can't feel sadness like the way a dog can feel it.
Mm.
And just knowing this dog lost its master and is like in his last bit of energy, like pulls him out of the tub to save him and
Yeah,
dies.
I
And
thought
it's
that
just like,
was
oh my
yeah,
God, dogs, they're so
yeah.
precious. He's like, oh, I asked him to go to the market with me, but he was still so sad. And like, don't tell me how a dog thinks. Dogs are supposed to be happy.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, Fitz gets put through the ringer in all these books. Like he goes through a lot for a young boy, and like the
Hmm.
third book, he's kind of like a grown man, but he's still like a teenager.
Okay.
But it's just like it doesn't read as it's like someone who's like lived an entire life, and it's like, damn, I forgot that he's like kind of been through a ton of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think book two is like really the peak of the three. So I'd be interested to hear
Yeah.
when you get to it a
I'll
month
let
and a
you
half from
know
now.
whenever it is. And the thing that like I love audiobooks, but I listen to a bunch of podcasts as well, and those are the things I listen to in my car rides. So when I have the books, I have to listen to the books.
Mhm.
I only have a limited time to get through it because it'll let you check it back out. But if there's other people waiting, there may be another 6 weeks, and I only have like 3 chapters left, and I don't want to do that. So it just like I have this backlog in my YouTube
Mhm.
watch later list of just so many things.
And I know it's just not your cup of tea, but it's like all your problems would be solved if you're like, all right, I'm just going to set this hour aside instead of TV. I'm just going to sit here and read a book because like all these books you can just get at the library for free.
Yeah,
They're all like probably available right away, but it's
maybe.
like no,
Yeah.
wait a month and a half for a book.
Yeah, and it's a nice little surprise. But after I'm done with this trilogy, I want to read some horror books.
Mm.
I've been seeing just a lot of horror book TikToks of people like, oh, if you like children eating each other's guts, you're gonna love this. If you like giant killer bees killing the elderly, you're gonna love this. I'm like, I want to read these books because some of them sound really messed up, and I haven't read a lot of horror that wasn't Dracula, Jekyll and Hyde,
Sure. Yeah. Every time I
Frankenstein.
go to Barnes and Noble, there's usually like one table just like books to not read in, late at night at bed or whatever it's fucking called, or
The time when most people do their reading.
yeah. And it's just like, oh, like I think a scary book would be cool, but I just can't. Like I'm such a visual person
Yeah.
that I have a hard time believing that like reading this would like send a shiver down my spine. There's people who like, oh, this book scared the shit out of me,
Yeah.
and I would love to read that
I
kind of
had
book.
to put it down
but
because
like,
I was disgusted.
yeah, but I'd be very disappointed if I was reading and go like, this is lame.
That ain't scary.
Yeah,
Eat those guts, kids.
it's like all those like people who were scared at the movie theater who come out like that wasn't scary though. That was stupid. It's like, well,
Go see Deadpool.
shut up. I don't want to be that person, but in book form, you know.
So the last thing before we get to the things we both watched, Harley Quinn had a Valentine's Day special. It's just episode 11 of season 3. It's like a two-parter, 44-minute
Sure.
episode. I love this show so much. It is so funny and so horny. This is like the horniest episode yet because the whole show is Harley wanting to fuck Ivy all the time. And can get pretty graphic. Not as graphic as like say a Big Mouth would. Like you're
Sure.
not seeing talking vaginas or anything, but there is a scene where like everybody in Gotham is banging, and you're seeing a lot of positions and a lot of butt cheeks and stuff.
Huh.
But there's a lot of little stories like Bane's pathetic. You never watched any of the Harley
I
Quinn
have not.
show.
I mean, you've said it's
You
great.
got to
Our
get
buddy
on it.
who recently watched it said it was great, and it seems like it's a
Yeah.
an animation train I need to hop on, but
And it is
haven't
like a
got around
little
to it.
self-aware and a little meta, but it doesn't get annoying. Like it knows the dumb jokes. Like there's this great simple joke. So Clayface, my least favorite character in the show, which sucks because I fucking love Clayface. He's voiced by Alan Tudyk. He's very dramatic. They really leaned into the actor
Uh-huh.
part and very thespian and stage performance sort of actor, but he's terrible. Like in one season, he accidentally kills Billy Bob Thornton, and he has to like pretend to be Billy Bob Thornton in a movie, but he's terrible at it. So he's sad because he's alone on Valentine's Day. He thinks he has a date on Tinder or something, and turns out to be Captain Boomerang, who just was gonna kill him and steal his money. He was just being catfished. So he gets cut in half, and while he's cut in half, his lower half like grows a face, and it's him. And so he falls in love with himself, and they're just like, "We're perfect for each other because you're me and I'm you, but we can never touch because then I'll just reabsorb you." And so they're trying to like have
That's
this.
actually a cute idea. Not maybe not a cute idea, but like a fun idea.
Yeah, watch Pushing Daisies. There's a bit with that.
I heard Pushing Days is
It's
great
pretty
as well.
good, yeah. But you get one season and it's all blue balls, and you'll just be pissed that you watched it. So they're like, oh, we got to be together. We'll be in these rubber hamster balls, and no, that's not going to work. Well, maybe we just need to be apart, so we know that our true love is out there, and that will give us a happy feeling. But then they come together at the end, and they're having these like huge, grandiose monologues professing each other's love to like a top half of a monster and a butt of a monster talking to each other. And then it just cuts to people in the crowd, and someone's just like, this is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen. And it's just like little jokes when they know this is dumb. And if anybody saw this, they would say that it is very dumb. But so Harley's trying to give Ivy the best Valentine's Day ever. And of course, she never listens because she always takes things to extreme. Everything has to be the best, the best, the best, the best. And so she's like pulling out. She's going to Etrigan to get magic potions to make her have the best orgasm of her life, and just tons of stuff. But I think my favorite part is like Bane is the most pathetic. There's a lot of pathetic dudes in this show. Batman's pathetic. Jim Gordon's pathetic. So Bane is he can't find love on Valentine's because he's such like a grammar Nazi, and like complaining that like people say anyways, and it's like there's no s, it's just anyway, and don't people care about grammar? And so he gets like roped into this like S and M thing. This woman's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go beat the shit out of this old rich guy. You must be the stud that is there, and he's like, oh, okay, I'll show up for this. And so they're just getting along, and they really click. And so she's making fun of the old dudes.
Now, is this like a normal sized human woman and this like just
yes,
hulking monster who like clearly they couldn't?
Yeah, she's smaller. She's thick, but she is like a normal human being.
Got it. Okay.
And so like this old guy has a kink about having his penis made fun of, and like so she's like, oh, you're so pathetic. Look how small it is. And Bane has a small dick.
Shocker.
And so he's all like, oh, it's not so bad, is it? Oh, it's pretty normal. And so she invites him back, like, oh, I can't wait to see, your fucking thing, because like you're huge. So he has to go to Etrigan to get a magic potion, and he's just like, you have to help me. He's like, let me guess, you want to make your dick bigger, and it like backfires, and it turns him into this big kaiju monster, and he just keeps like humping buildings and stuff. It's ridiculous, but it's so funny. You definitely need to get on Harley Quinn. I don't know if you there may be some cringy shit that you're not gonna like. It's pretty kind of lowbrow humor, but well written lowbrow humor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind lowbrow humor. It's just uncomfortable situations make me uncomfortable. But okay, I mean, if
give it a shot. And I will say, like, there's some stuff in season 1 is the worst of the show. It gets better as it goes, but still, it's still great. Like Kite Man, who would have thought Kite Man would be an interesting character? And he's one of the best characters of season 1.
Good to know.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
How long are we in?
So we are at an hour 26.
Okay.
Not bad. Not bad. Yeah. We can get through this.
Okay.
So we didn't plan for us to review this, really. I was just going to say a couple of words, but we both happened to watch it. Did you watch it because I asked you if you watched it? And did that like go, well, might as well?
Me and my wife both wanted to see it, and
Okay.
you had put the idea in my head. It reminded me. It's like, you know what? I know Ben's watching this. We've been talking about watching for like 2 months now.
It's a Best Picture nominee.
But yeah,
you know,
let's knock it out real quick.
So we watched Elvis, the story of Elvis. You can't tell by the title. Did you like Elvis?
Yeah, that's kind of my review. Like it's just so weird.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah. This is a bad movie. I'm sorry. This should not be up for Best Picture.
I think this movie is carried. It like Austin Butler did all the heavy lifting. I think in this movie, because he's a great actor giving a great performance in a not good movie.
Yes. Like he's doing the heavy lifting, but Tom Hanks is underneath trying to pull it back down.
So I took some notes. First off, there's some, and this is just Baz Luhrmann's style.
Fuck Baz Luhrmann.
There's a lot of like
he sucks.
Weird camera choices in here. Like a lot of like you'll close up of Elvis's face, and then a thing will be spinning around. It's like, oh, roulette table's like, oh, it's Vegas, but then that'll pull out more, and then it's a tire wheel, and it's like, oh, now we're in this location. And it's like a lot of that kind of stuff. There's like a big CGI sequence of just like Las Vegas and like nameplates changing and stuff. And like there's so much like jarring camera work. It's like it just seems like, oh, our movie's kind of boring. I gotta spice it up with like all this like flashy stuff. And I know Elvis is like a flashy character.
Sure.
He wore tons of rhinestones and everything, but I just didn't enjoy the direction of this movie because every time I'm like about to get into the story, I'm pulled out by some like weird directorial choice. Tom Hanks's accent is atrocious.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there's recordings of this guy, and maybe it sounds just like that. Maybe Tom Hanks is doing a great impression of this guy, but it just seems so oddly cartoonish.
Yeah.
It just seems like a villain you would see in some sort of like after school program thing, where it's like, oh, come this way, children, and I'll lead. And this is a bad. There's not a Dutch accent by any means. It just
is Tom Hanks a Dutch accent?
It's supposed to be. I looked it up because I was like, what? Me and my wife couldn't decide what accent this was.
Yeah.
We just assumed like German, and we looked up, and he is apparently a Dutchman who came to America. But anyway, it's just like knowing it's Tom Hanks doing this voice in this prosthetic was also just a jarring. It's like, oh, I'm watching Austin Butler, and he's doing a good job, but he's talking to someone who's like doing this. It just seems like a weird cartoon character. And it's
like an Austin Powers character or something.
I couldn't. And that was the other crazy thing. This movie's called Elvis, and really only half the movie is Elvis. The other half is Tom Hanks' character. Who gives a fuck about this guy? Yeah. Like, I get he's the villain of the movie, and he's like, supposed to be the foil for Elvis, and he's the reason why Elvis like went and did all these things. But it's like I never really felt like he was ever pushing Elvis to like do like I think I understand why Elvis did those things. And it's just like, we got to put him on stage, inject him with this thing, and just like, and it led Elvis to do things. But it never really felt to me like he was that villainous or that like
you didn't manipulate him into do things. It was like, hey, I know you want to go international, but let's do 6 weeks in Vegas, and you'll have all the money you need. And he's like, okay, that's a good idea. Let's go with it. He didn't like, but you signed this contract, and now you have to do it until the very end, where he like tries to screw him out of all of his money.
Yeah.
It seems like he's doing legitimate manager stuff, and then Elvis is seeing the good in these things.
Yeah, I think it could have just been played better as like, okay, we're following Elvis' storyline. Here's this background character who we can tell is doing things that is leading Elvis to do this. But like, just stick with Elvis the whole time. But we're just constantly cutting back to Tom Hanks' character and like
Colonel
Cotton,
Colonel Mustard.
We'll just call him the Colonel.
Yeah.
And it was just like, if he was likable or not gross or whatever, it's like maybe I could have enjoyed it, but it just every time Tom Hanks was on screen, I was just like, just go back to Elvis. Elvis's first performance where he like gyrates and women are orgasming at like just the idea,
of what's
like,
flopping around in those big pants.
Like I hated this scene. I think it was played to be like, wow, look how great Elvis was. And, like I can get behind girls going like, oh, this is exciting. Like, woo, like, girls do this all the time. And like,
this was their sexual awakening.
Yeah,
they didn't know that they can feel these things until they saw Elvis.
It was just so weird to see like, oh no, they're like, this is legitimate like female pleasure happening just from like this guy's talent.
And there's video of it, like this shit, and it happened with the Beatles too. Like, women lost their fucking minds when they saw this because everything before that was so peachy king and goody two shoes and clean cut, and this guy was, waggling dong in their face, and like they never knew that they could like something.
I didn't have a problem with the female attendees of the show like being excited that he's Elvis or whatever. It was just how it was shot and going like, look what he can do. It's like, it just seemed a little weird and gross to me.
It was almost like what's his face, Michael Bay, when he would like shoot women like on the street as a transformer is like flying overhead. It's these weird shots of women's faces screaming. They're like so extreme. It's almost like they have like mind control or they've been infected by a virus, and this is them like doing an outbreak scene. And
this is like the camouflage in Get Out, where they're just like, oh, they just like realize that they it's like, I understand like things back then are a little more like uptight, like, oh, I can see their ankles, like that kind of shit. I understand that. So like concerts were like the big thing, but it just, and then like having the parents there and they're just being so like, these darn kids and devil music. This movie just reminded me of like, it's the halfway point between Walk the Line, an Oscar-winning, super good movie, and Walk Hard, a goofy parody of Walk the Line. And it's like, it has like almost exact same scenes. Like it's got this scene, and it's like, oh, Elvis's brother died. And it's like, oh, the wrong kid died. I thought that. I was like, wait, was Walk the Line stealing from or is it just like, oh, this is just every rock star from the 40s or 50s? It was like, they all had a family member who died in
polio or
something, and then like that, and they just happen to be, and they see some thing at a church, and they go like, I'm gonna do that, but cooler, and like that's how rock music was made. I don't know, but so that was just absurd.
Yeah, it's totally Walk Hard, and I love Walk Hard so much because it just nails every biopic. Okay, do you say biopic or biopic?
No, biopic. Don't be that guy.
I hear people say biopic all the time, and like, is that really the word? Because it's a biopic. It's a
biography, moving picture.
Yeah, it's biopic. So I'm not saying biopic because that sounds so medical.
Yeah,
myopic and endoscopic and things like that. Walk Hard just nails every single one. Even things that it's like different time period. You take Bohemian Rhapsody, it's still Walk Hard. Every single one of them is Walk Hard. I haven't seen Rocket Man. I heard that's like one of the better of the.
I enjoyed Rocket Man, but like Rocket Man was kind of silly, but in like an Elton John way, you know. So it Rocket Man's good.
Okay, because it's just Hollywood. They love three major things: biopics, especially and mainly because it's an impression. They love impressions. They think impression is acting. It's who can nail this character the best. Like Rami Malek got for Bohemian Rhapsody. Did he really deserve it, or did he just do a really good impersonation? And they love movies about the movie industry where they pat themselves on the back. And like Elvis just kind of hits these sorts of things, and of course it's going to get nominated. And it's annoying because just because you can redo someone's life and do a great impersonation of them doesn't mean you're a good movie. I don't care who you attach to it, because Baz Luhrmann fucking sucks. I would say Romeo and Juliet's probably his best thing, but I haven't seen it since the theater when it came out in 95, 96.
Yeah, man, I think I've only seen this in Romeo and Juliet, because I never saw Moulin Rouge. I never saw Great Gatsby.
Yeah, I saw enough of Great Gatsby to know I would not like it.
Yeah. This movie has, I believe, 2 modern hip hop soundtracks in it.
Yeah. But that's what you did with Gatsby.
Which I don't necessarily hate. It was just on another instance. It's like I feel like it kind of fit in the scene, but it's just so jarring when you have like a serious movie about a guy in the 50s, yeah, and then it's just like, oh, here's Doja Cat. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's a thing.
And if it was every song performed was a modern take on a classic Elvis song, I think that could work.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
it's not.
there's movies like A Knight's Tale where you have it's like, but
Sure.
like that movie is essentially a comedy, so like it fit the tone of that
Yeah.
movie. This is supposed to be fun, where this is just like, oh, this is supposed to be serious, but here's a artist we have on catalog that we can throw in. I don't know. And weird special effect. That's all I really have about Elvis. I think Austin Butler deserved better, but I don't know if it was just like he was so good in comparison to everything else around him. Maybe he wasn't actually that good.
Yeah, maybe.
I can definitely still see him winning the Oscar,
I hope.
but I'm not necessarily like rooting for him.
No.
But I don't. He's the best part of this movie, as he should be, considering it's Elvis.
Yeah.
So good on Austin Butler. I think it's a squandered biopic or a biopic. I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't like this movie. Shouldn't have been nominated. I understand him getting nominated for actor, but it's up for best editing. Like, really? Just because it's quick and you have a lot of weird camera zooms and zipping around different cities doesn't mean you have good editing. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Do better, Academy.
I will say the soundtrack's pretty good, just because like Elvis is pretty good. And that, yeah. So
and
Elvis,
I like all the 1-to-1 recreations of his big performances, and
I rewatched that the ending of it. I believe it was the end of his special, his like actual performance, where it's like he's performing in that white suit in front of like his name in red. Man, for a thing shot in the 50s, it's I mean, it's just one long take and it's like a slow pan up to him, but just his voice and just the way that was shot, it's great. Yeah. It's a great recreation too. So that was a pretty good scene.
Yeah. So our main topic is M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin, which is based on the story Cabin at the End of the World. Who is it by, Steve?
The author is Paul G. Tremblay.
So I was really hopeful for this because it's a well-known thing. M. Night has kind of a dialogue problem. He writes really weird, wooden, robotic things that humans don't say. So being based off of a pre-existing piece of literature gave me much higher hopes for this movie. And there's also, I think, two other writers credited to this. So, quick synopsis. Knock at the Cabin. There's a family, two men and their adopted daughter are approached by a group of 4 people saying, let us in. We need to tell you something big. And if you don't make a sacrifice, the end of the world will happen. So as you saw in multiple movies that we saw together, I've been avoiding trailers. Thank God, because that second trailer really just spells it all out for you.
Pretty much.
And this is very different for M. Night, where there isn't a major twist at all. There's no real big surprises going in. I kind of called everything beat for beat as it was going along.
Real quick, do you know what happens in the book?
Yes.
Okay, because I do. I was hoping you didn't, so I could surprise you.
Nah,
but okay.
I do.
Okay,
I do.
Because there is a twist on that.
A little bit, but it's I don't know. I feel they really needed to play up they're crazy angle and really sow some doubt. Right. But I think everything that they show, it's like, yeah, look, planes falling out of the sky. It's the end of the world.
In context, like them watching the TV, it was like you never really doubted that what they were seeing was real.
I mean, it could be a closed circuit thing. It could be.
Yeah, I mean, they had at the beginning. It's like, look, they were checking their watch because they were waiting for this announcement. But then things keep happening, and by I think the third one, they were like, oh yeah, this is really happening. Yeah. This is kind of weird.
I just wish they just sowed a little more doubt for the audience, because the whole time I'm like, yeah, they're the 4 horsemen of apocalypse, and you don't do this, bad things are going to happen. And that was the only real surprise is, are they going to go through with it or not? And that's it. It's a 50-50 thing. The movie can't really go any other way. So it would be nice if, there's just a little more doubt. Just a little more of Daddy Eric. I can't remember which one. Andrew and Eric?
Andrew and Eric, yeah.
Andrew and Eric. Can't remember which one's which. They're both very generic white guys. Um, I'm so surprised that they hired both these guys because
They could have just hired us.
they could just be brothers, you know, like I don't know, make one Indian or something just to spice it up. They're just so boring. Or make one a redhead.
We're gonna have to cut that.
Why? I mean,
you can't say make an Indian so you spice it up.
Oh God,
you fucking racist.
I didn't mean it that
Jesus
way.
Christ.
I meant make things a little different by not having just like
add a little curry in there. It'll be fine.
I just don't want to look at two pieces of toast, or uncooked toast, also known as bread. Just sitting there.
All right, cut this.
I'll leave it in. I could sound like an asshole.
I don't want to be part of this.
So, do you like this movie?
I didn't like it as much as I was hoping I was going to like it, but I did like it. I'd say it's a B- for me if I gave it a ranking. I think it's, checks all my boxes of a small cast with a ninja concept done within one location.
Mm-hmm.
It's, from a directing standpoint, it's probably one of his better shot films because it's not flashy. I don't think there's anything that in this that would make you go like, "Ooh, this is an M. Night film." Just from his direction, it's very simple, but I think that's used to great effect.
Yeah, I love that shot of it pans over and you do see the light in the mirror that shines on the dad that does say he saw a light. I thought that was just for us, just a nice little piece of cinematography. Nope, it was plot important. It was very nice.
So yeah, I think this movie does everything correctly, but never did anything to blow me away. I think Dave Bautista's pretty good in this. I want to give a special credit to Ben Aldridge, who plays the taller husband,
Daddy Eric.
Daddy Andrew. Because I thought he was fantastic in this. I really liked him. I happily see him in more stuff. Jonathan Groff. And the whole cast was good. But I thought Ben Aldridge as Daddy Andrew. I don't know if we need to keep calling him Daddy. But Daddy Andrew was my favorite. I think he really put in a performance. And I liked him. But
I want to give a special shout out to Rupert Grint, playing a real big piece of shit who, when he has to sacrifice himself, he was great in that. Look me in the fucking eyes as I die, because this is on you. And that was really good.
That's the stuff I found the most interesting in terms of it's the movie paints this picture, and the movie doesn't say it, but it pretty much is oh, these are the four horsemen of the apocalypse, like you said. But it's not like they're actually the four horsemen of the apocalypse. It's just they just happen to be chosen by an unloving God to deliver these messages to these people. It's one of you needs to make these kill people, make these people choose to kill themselves, or you guys need to kill each other. And it's just it's crazy that they were just okay,
I'm cool with that.
If these people don't choose, I guess I'll just let these other three people murder me. And it's just a crazy thing. It's it's so interesting.
But if you met 4 or 3 other people online who had the exact same visions of you, it'd be very convincing to go this is a legit thing. We're not just having some, shared psychosis.
I don't know if I believe Batista as a middle school basketball coach.
Yeah, he's I teach second grade. Really? They would not let you into a school. You are very scary. You are huge. Your neck is the size of a fire hydrant. You would scare the shit out of these kids. But I mean,
and it's covered in tattoos. It's you look like you got out of prison. How did you get this job?
Yeah.
And in the book, he is a normal dude, but I get oh, you want to intimidate.
I think he's still supposed to be a big dude. I think they say he's a neck as big as a tree or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought I read it that he was just a normal sized person. But okay, never mind. I just thought oh, we just wanted to cast Batista because he's a more intimidating presence.
Sure.
But you give him this not meek personality, but
sure.
He's the calm, collected, soft spoken one where everyone else is kind of freaking out, even though he's still freaking out.
Yeah.
But that's why I enjoyed him.
Yeah, they could have just made him I'm a mechanic, I'm a firefighter, something. I don't know why he had to be a second grade teacher. Yeah.
But whatever, it's fine.
Because they tried to justify oh, they are the four horsemen. This one's nurture, this one's malice, or whatever.
Oh yeah.
It's that doesn't really quite work. All the four horsemen are bad, gross things, and you can't have 4 people on the same team and one's nurture and one's malice. They're supposed to be all good or all bad. So I don't think they use that well enough.
Whatever.
Because it's like you have like, okay,
I don't know enough about the biblical apocalypse to really
well,
justify.
one thing that you probably saw, like they all wore shirt colors that matches their horses.
Mm.
It's like one's a black horse, a white horse, a pale horse, and a red horse or something like
Yeah,
that.
a fire horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you had something like, oh, this is war. This is Rupert Grint's character, which is funny that they name him. He goes by the name Red Man, wears a red shirt, and is a red head. Um, like he's a soldier, so he's
Mm-hmm.
the Horseman War, and like, oh, Pestilence, she's a biochemist or a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Death could be, oh, he's a mortician, and he's an undertaker. If their jobs kind of correlated to what
Sure.
it was just like, oh, I'm a bartender, and I'm also sometimes a bartender. Like two of them are bartenders.
But I think I kind of like the idea more of it's like it's not necessarily about who you are. It's just like sometimes it's just four random people,
Sure.
and you're like, whether you like it or not, you are now the deliverers of the apocalypse. It's like, shit.
And so they get the message. Do you think that God is telling them, you need to go to this specific cabin, and whoever's there, this is the proposition, or you need to go to this cabin because these three people are there? Do you think the three people are important, or is it just who happened to be there has to, like, because it's just such a random thing, like, why are they so important to make this decision? Shouldn't it be like, if we're gonna leave the fate up to some random people, it should, I would think God would just say, hey, cabin 14, in the Catskills, whoever's there, they make that choice.
I think it's just a matter of, well, he says in the movie, it's like, we were chosen because our love is so pure. It's just, it didn't matter, two men or man and woman or, kids or.
So they are important.
But their love is important. Who they are as people is not, is my theory. Is
But say they weren't at that cabin. Say they were at home. Would these four people show up to their home because they specifically need them?
I would say yes. Okay. I mean, I'm sure that there's multiple people who have, pure love, and it's just maybe these were just the one. I don't know. Yeah. When you're dealing with an omnipotent God who can like cause the apocalypse and make all these unnatural things happen, and then just like immediately they're wiped away because someone was chosen. Yeah. I don't want to get into the logistics of like.
Yeah. What was God thinking? What was his plan? Oh, well, you can't know God's plan.
That's why, and we'll get into that when we talk about the book, because there's some ideas in that which kind of like are interesting. But what do you think of the apocalyptic scenes, the very CGI heavy stuff?
They look like scenes from Geostorm.
I've never seen Geostorm, but that's kind of the vibe I felt as well.
That giant wave, very scary in real life. Sure. Fake as shit. Yeah. Look, not very good.
Yeah, the planes falling didn't really, like, if you saw that in real life, once again, that'd be real scary.
Horrifying.
But just didn't look all that good.
And then it was like, oh, and then there's a pandemic happening. And it's like, yeah. And?
Been there, done that, sir.
Like make a volcano erupt. Something. Yeah. But just having, another disease, I guess that's like, could be the pestilence or whatever. But, or that be your thing. Okay, so a war breaks out, pestilence, okay, a pandemic, famine, there was a heat wave and killed all these crops and yada yada yada, and then death.
The only problem with that is like, how do you can't really backpedal that one. You can backpedal natural disasters, like, well, the wave stopped, or like, the earthquake stopped shaking, but it's like, all the crops suddenly died. It's like, good thing we had those backup crops we never told anybody about.
They can say, well, the planes suddenly stopped falling and we got control over it again. They could say, like, even though our fields have been decimated by these locusts or whatever, which would have tied into the locusts at the beginning, or the grasshoppers, the same family. Like,
sure.
Like, we are noticing fresh sprouts growing and life perseveres.
Okay, fair enough.
I think they could have, but that's just me being a fan of like just the Four Horsemen and assigning it to as many people as I can. Love it.
Yeah.
What about the weapons? So they had to specifically make these weapons, but like, why did Rupert Grint even have to make one? His doesn't get used. Was it specifically so you have a good weapon to at least break into the place? Because they don't seem practical. One's like a shovel pitchfork combo. One's like a mallet on a chain. One was like
a warhammer with like a spike on the back, and then Batista's was like just kind of a makeshift axe,
Yeah.
spear.
Yeah. It was an axe and a something. But
Whatever.
it was just like, hey, look at and find 2 farming equipment and tape them together, and that's your special holy weapon. But for why? Because it was Batista who killed everybody, so that only his weapon was important.
Mm-hmm.
So why did everybody else need weapons? And why were they told
Well,
specifically to
even
make it
though
that
he was the
way?
one who killed it, they all had to put in. Like it wasn't just Batista wasn't the only one.
Oh
It's like
yeah, that's right. They all
he
yeah.
did the death blow, and they kind of jumped in.
Sure.
I think it was just like if these people don't choose, you have to be part of the sin. You are the deliverers of death. It's like, yeah, he's the one who like does the killing, but you are just as much part of
Yeah.
this sin as everyone
Everybody's
else.
got to grab the gun and fire a bullet into the corpse. So
Yeah, yeah. That's my guess.
yeah, I just don't see why Rupert Grint would need to build one.
I think
Because
from a storyteller standpoint, I think it just makes your villains more like scary and
sure.
interesting. It's like, oh, they have weapons that I haven't seen before, and like, cause it's crazy that they would make these things, so it just adds to their craziness factor. From a director standpoint, it's visually more appealing and weird, and I'm sure there's logistical reasons to it, but if there's like a deeper meaning behind behind it, the movie definitely doesn't lay it out for you, or maybe the book does.
I wonder how they chose the order. I'm assuming God said you got to go first, you got to go second, but
Yeah.
like I wonder how that conversation went. Someone's just like, at least I'm not number 1, because that's going to be the one that's going to have to die, because convincing them right off the bat is going to be really, really hard. But after they see one person die, maybe they'll believe it.
Or maybe it wasn't even really like him telling. It's just like you've all seen the same vision. You all see who dies in what order.
Yeah.
If this doesn't come true, it's like it wasn't a matter of just like I'm telling you you're first. It was just like it's coming because you've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
The little girl was good.
Yeah. I wish she had a little bit more. Being able to just like speak up and go like, "Stop doing this to my family,"
or like do some Home Alone stuff.
Sure.
Would have been, or like not necessarily like make contraptions, but like
sure.
Set something up to where she was like, oh, now she's able to like run away or escape or any of that kind of stuff. So were you happy with the ending, the choice, how it all played out?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's either that or it's all fake, or it's real and they don't go through it. I mean, I guess that would be kind of a more fucked up ending where they're driving off and you're just seeing the lightning hit even more and even more planes are falling and them looking at each other going like, ooh, did we actually make the right choice? I think that could have been a fun ending, but I'm okay with how it all shook out. And especially with like they do some flashbacks, but they also do a flash forward where she's like her own woman now and she has a business or a good career.
Yeah, she has a good career. She's happy and Andrew's happy.
Yeah. So I guess that they did make the right decision and it is, not all fake.
Yeah, I just wish like maybe we sat with it a little bit more. Like all the stuff worked in terms of just like I can root for these characters. I like their relationship. I like their relationship with our daughter. They're just good people who just happen to be part of the biggest thing possible.
Yeah.
And it's just like the idea of just like, I understand that I need to do this thing and that you want me to do it, but you're asking me to kill this thing that I love more than anything in the hopes that this is correct. Like all evidence says, yes, this is what I need to do. Yeah. And I believe you now, but it still must have just been like, what an awful choice. Yeah. It's like I had to kill my husband to save the world. And it's like, I don't give a fuck about anybody else but the 2 people in this room. But you wanted me to do it. And
it's even worse in the book. So let's just get into that.
Okay. So the book, when Batista and Andrew, I'm calling him the actor and then the character, are fighting and they're struggling. Leonard, yes, Leonard and Andrew, they're struggling over the gun that they have, and the gun goes off and hits Wen, and Wen's dead.
Yep.
But the end of the world still has to keep coming because they didn't sacrifice her; it was an accident. And so Leonard he was struggling with the woman.
Yes.
And then the woman feels bad, and she kills herself. And I think Leonard kills himself in the book, or they're able to feed him, whatever. And so they're just like, they're holding Wen's body, and they're just like, well, what do we do now? Do do one of us kill each other and save the world or what? And then they're just kind of just like, well, what kind of God would do this to our little girl?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck them.
Yep.
And they just get in the car and they drive away. And that's the end of the book. And you don't know what happens after that.
Yep.
You just assume, I guess, that the world ends. And so this felt like they read that book and then they maybe have even, and I don't know this, I don't think they did, but it's like, it seems like the kind of thing like, we shot this, but it didn't test well because audience were bummed.
Yeah.
So we did this other ending where it kind of like gave a happier ending.
Sure.
Which I'm okay with.
Yeah,
like I think as a reader, if I read that book, I'd be like, well, that's kind of anticlimactic. Like,
and I've heard the author is like that with all of his books. Like really interesting ideas, you get to the end and go like, it's up to you, reader.
Yeah, and I usually 90% of the time I hate ambiguous endings. It's like I'd rather you give an ending that disappointed me than not give me an ending at all. Because like this idea of just like, oh well, there's the idea you have in your own mind might be better than what comes out. It's like, well, yeah, just give me good or bad.
Yeah,
because at least I'll know.
I know what's in my mind is better than anything you can create.
Sure.
Professional writer.
So I think as a book reader, I'd be disappointed. As a film watcher, I think that ending might have been more interesting. Especially when you look at a movie like Cabin in the Woods, which does end with two characters going like, oh yeah, you know what? Fuck it. And they just let the world end.
Yeah.
And it's a great ending.
Hey, maybe that was part of it where they're like, okay, people are going to get this and that movie confused. We can't have them both in the same way.
In the same way, yeah. So I'm fine with this ending. I think it works. I liked it, but it didn't blow me away. I don't really know if I can really add or what I would change. Maybe just more time with the character. Like I wanted to care more. Just like maybe if the danger seemed more real. I don't know.
I think if we got a little more with our four horsemen and how they came together, who posted first, who responded, and because what a coincidence that Redman assaulted Andrew and Eric in a bar, and then he ends up being one of the people that shows up. Like, is that just really a big coincidence? Or is there some more bigger destiny to it? Because if it was a thing like, oh, I think I know you. Aren't you someone with my business, I closed the deal, and weren't you like the secretary there? You're all connected somehow. But it's like, no, it's just Redman. He's just a homophobe, and he bashed him in the head with a bottle.
Or like if they were all friends, like this was like a glass onion kind of thing, where they were all friends, they were all like on vacation together, and then
forget a vision,
and then they're just like, you got it, we have to make them kill each other, and then it becomes this thing where it's like, God, like we all know each other, we're all friends. There's underlying things like, well, we have a connection to this thing, or like we're having an affair. Like there's all these interconnected plots, like why we shouldn't do that. Like we don't want you to die.
Yeah.
But God is telling us to make
you die.
know
I'm not a religious person, so you should believe me when I'm telling you this is a real thing.
Like, I think that could have been really interesting as opposed to just like,
that's a good idea.
Four strangers who show up and like, yep, kill yourself. Or not kill yourself, but kill someone you love. So I think there's a lot good here. But by the end, I was just like, what's the meaning of it all? Is there no meaning? It was because it's like, God is just this power that clearly exists and has these things and just can decide to fuck with humans whenever they want. It's like, okay, well, it's like, we just go on. It's like, is this a thing that occurs every millennia or something like that? Like
maybe people are making these choices all the time.
This is where the mythology of the Four Horsemen has come from. It's like, oh, they were real people.
Yeah.
They weren't these like they probably rode horses
back in the
first
day.
time.
They showed up in a Range Rover
like
this time.
If you did a flashback sequence of like, oh, we're not the first horsemen to appear in this world.
Yeah.
And like that's how the Bible is sort of like written. Sure. It's just been altered in so many ways. Like there's parts that are like that are true, but also parts that aren't. It's like you can do a whole bunch of cool ideas.
9/11 was one of those things. Like, look, we're gonna have these 4 planes hit 4 important buildings, and unless you do these things, whatever. Okay, North Tower, boom, South Tower, Pentagon, and then they do the sacrifice, and then Flight 93 crashes and
that's a cool fucking idea.
Something like that. It's like all throughout history.
Get M. Night on the phone. we got him.
We got Knock on the Towers. Oh no,
done that.
Cut. So it would be interesting. It's like, every year someone has to make the sacrifice, and we've just been lucky that every year someone has done it.
Which is once again, kind of like the same thing that Cabin in the Woods did. It's like they've successfully beat the monster every year. This is the first year where they didn't beat the monsters.
Well, they've upgraded. It's not, we've gone from monsters to fighting God. Okay, he's the final boss.
Sure.
All the school shootings. It's just like, maybe that year it's like, all 4 died. We let all 4 shootings happen.
Sounds like, I don't know. There's some cool ideas. Anyway, all right, let's rank these movies.
Before we get to that, we made a bet on what M. Night's cameo would be. I said space laser operator. Very wrong.
I was slightly closer, but still very wrong.
But I also said like gas station attendant, which, they show up at that diner at the end. He could have easily been a cook or something.
I didn't see him earlier, I was like, this is where he comes in.
Yeah, but he's just an infomercial guy. What was he selling?
I don't remember.
It's like a slap chop sort of thing.
Yes. Just some random...
Some cooking thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we have seen all 13 films, or at least I have seen all 13 films of M. Night Shyamalan, we're going to rank them our best to or worst to best. How do you want to do it? Should it be you read your list and then I'll tell you where it lands on mine? Like you tell me your 10, maybe that's my 9. You tell me your 9, maybe that's my 2, Or
I'll tell you my list. I'll go one at a time and then you react to that and however you see fit.
Okay.
Because I forgot to rank them, so I'm just going to rank them right now. And we're just going to go off of that.
What did you think we were doing?
Talking about Knock at the Cabin. You did tell me that we were going to rank.
And then you sat down and you wrote the list.
Well, I wrote down I wanted to make sure I had all 13.
Okay.
And we just got to talking and I just didn't. So, okay. As I'm looking at it, I know what I'm going to pick. It's not like a random thing.
All right. So what is the worst M. Night movie of all time?
So I have seen every M. Night movie except for 2 of them.
I'm going to say you didn't see Old or Visit.
Okay, that's correct. But I know they're not worse than the worst.
Okay. Let's hear it.
And, people can be mad at me because my next 2 will be controversial because I'm sure a lot of people like The Visit.
Oh.
But the worst one is not controversial. And it's The Last Airbender. Of course it is. It's an affront to not only cinema, but source material. It's what happens when you give a guy who likes a thing who doesn't know what to do with the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we're all fans of Tolkien, but we all can't be Peter Jackson and direct a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us would make hot dookie garbage. And this is what this is. So Last Airbender is obviously the worst one.
I went back and forth. That's not my last.
Oh, shit.
Airbender is my number 12.
Okay.
I think it is absolutely awful, but I would rewatch that over what I think is the last one. I think my worst is
After Earth.
Is After Earth, yes. Because that's your 12, right?
I feel bad giving 2 movies I haven't seen higher rankings and
sure,
stuff.
But you kind of have to give them low rankings. You've never seen them.
Yeah. But of the ones After Earth would be my next pick.
Yeah, it's just so fucking boring. And I know I said it before, but it feels like the movie version of a mediocre video game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it has your map, it has your customizable weapon, it has your big bosses and your ticking clock and your energy capsules for your air. Like it's just a video game turned into a movie, and it's really bad. It's got a dumb premise. It's got bad acting from both Smiths. It's just so dull. Where I'll watch Airbender, I'd say at least 3 more times in my lifetime. I will probably watch Airbender because I love that scene when the Earthbenders break out. It's a scene that is you, me, and Nick we've talked about before, where the whole group starts charging up, and then one little rock goes tumbling by very slowly. It's so funny, and all the weird race casting sort of stuff is just ridiculous. Yeah. The mispronunciations of people's names.
Pronunciations.
Wow.
Can't do it right now.
Funny. I'm mispronouncing mispronunciation. Sokka and Soka. Yeah.
Anyway. So, okay. Well, how about I do this? I'll say at number 12 is The Visit because I haven't seen it.
Okay.
And at number 11 is Old because I haven't seen it.
Okay.
And then at number 10 is After Earth. And I'll give After Earth credit as something I have seen. I do think there's some cool stuff in it. I like the idea of just like not like a monster that senses fear, and just you become this like super warrior that like just has no fear.
Sure.
I like the big old bird that shows up and like keeps him warm but dies doing so.
Yeah.
I think there's some like neat concepts in this. It's just a movie that isn't executed well.
Yeah.
So I think the movie is not. It's definitely not good, but I think it's just in different hands. This movie could have been real fucking cool.
Sure.
And I think it, especially as a sci-fi fan that I know you are, if given to the right person, you would have been like, you know what, this movie's pretty dope.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's why after it's sitting at 10, basically based on technicalities.
Okay.
So then you can go do 11 and 10.
Okay. So my 11 is Lady in the Water.
Okay.
And my 10 is The Happening.
Okay.
So we'll talk about it when we get to them on your list.
All right. So those are the next two on my list.
Okay, so, cool.
So I'll say at number 9 is The Happening. Hey, plant, how you doing? You got some green petals on you, huh? All right, say hi to your mother for me, okay? What's up with photosynthesis? Am I right? So Happening is just like that trailer was scary. Like seeing like I think the first half is pretty fucking cool. Like seeing all the people kill themselves and you don't know why, and the back half is just dumb.
Yeah. Especially when the answer is like, is it the plants? I think it's the plants. Like, it's not the plants. But maybe it is the plants. And then that's it. And then they're running away from the wind. It's embarrassing. And it's like the worst performance from Zoe Deschanel. Mark Wahlberg's not a good actor to begin with.
I just don't think those two have chemistry.
Oh, no, not at all. And then this is the movie that's so prevalent of his bad dialogue of like that. They meet up with a group of people and that guy's like, you like hot dogs? I like hot dogs. They're really interesting shaped. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Shut up. But seeing people feed themselves to lions and get run over by lawnmowers, it's fun.
There's some cool stuff,
stupid stuff.
Like I just can't imagine like you're in New York and you just hear a thud and then you look up and you see like not corpses but like bodies just falling towards you.
Yeah.
That's like so horrifying.
Yeah.
So there's some cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
But number 8 is Lady in the Water. Now it's been a long time since I've seen this movie, but it's kind of like the fun, fantastical version of that Shyamalan, and there's still like some horror elements, like the creepy plant wolf monsters, and the weird like, oh, we need to assemble this crew of like, oh, this is the warrior, this is this is this, and you think it's somebody else, but then it's actually someone. It's like, I know there's dumb shit like, oh, the kid can like tell the future by reading cereal boxes or whatever. I really don't remember all that much, but I think that there's fun elements to a fantastical story that like he was trying to tell. It just wasn't all that interesting. So that's why it's number 8 on my list.
This is one where M. Night makes himself to be the most important character in the movie. He writes a book and then it pisses someone off so bad that he gets assassinated, which causes people to change the world. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. You could be the infomercial guy. Don't be the Messiah. And the whole thing that you were just talking about is like my least favorite part about it. They're like, oh yeah, you're the warrior and you're the yada yada yada, and everybody has a role to play. And then it goes wrong and they go, oh shit, no, you're the warrior and you're the mage or whatever it is. And they mix it all up. They spend all this time going, this is how we're gonna do the thing, and then just we got it wrong. Let's try it again. Everybody get up, move chairs, and let's try it with different hats on. It's a bad movie. I like Paul Giamatti in it.
Yeah,
he gives a really good performance. Bryce Dallas Howard, not so much.
She's great now though. She's put it.
Yeah, she's good now.
So I think we're gonna be on the same page. That number 7. I'm on 7. Where are you? Because I think we've listed all the same movies so far. Oh no, I mean you haven't gotten to Old or The Visit. Okay.
No.
So
you should be at 13, 12, 11. No, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9.
So I mean,
okay, so I'm on 9.
Okay, do your next two.
So my number 9 is Glass.
Okay.
The most wasted potential of like 2 of his best works.
Glass was my next pick. So
Glass is interesting. At first, it's kind of shot kind of well. It's got some good colors. Sarah Paulson is really good. But then they just go, but we have a secret society of superhero murderers and we gotta kill them and keep them in check. Comes out of nowhere. They don't leave any clues to make you try to get to that conclusion on your own.
Mm-hmm.
With things like Sixth Sense, you could probably figure out that ending
Oh,
if
yeah.
you are a little more sleuthy. This is just a total 180 turn of like, but our real plan here is not to rehabilitate them, is to kill them because they're bad.
If superheroes take over, they'll wipe out the human race or
Sure,
something.
but it's absolute shit. And then they drown Bruce Willis in a puddle. Come on, like push Mr. Glass's chest in. Awesome. I don't even remember how. What was his name? Mr. Beast? No, that's a YouTube guy. Mr. Glass,
He's
Mr.
just
Beast,
called
and
the
Mr.
Beast.
Oh yeah, the Beast. I don't remember how he died, but Bruce Willis just like he sleepswalked through most of his
I
roles.
think Anya Taylor-Joy showed up and like calmed him down.
and he gets shot.
And then he gets shot.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, and then the makeup for Eliza's mom. There was no convincing that was an old lady. That was real bad.
Well, I won't really add anything to that because I don't necessarily disagree with you.
Okay.
You know what? After hearing your talk, I might bump up Lady in the Water to. Yeah, no, what? I'm going to do that. So number 7 is Lady in the Water. Number 8 is Glass. You're correct.
All right. Well, my number 8 is The Visit. I know you didn't see.
So yeah.
Found footage.
I hear it's one of his better ones.
I don't know. I think it's fine, but I think it's kind of an obvious, maybe not super obvious, but the whole time it's just like, don't go in the basement. There's mold in it. Yeah, mold's real bad. It's gonna hurt you, kid. So nothing nefarious down there. Just don't go in the basement. It's kind of heavy-handed on things, and like I said before, there's the weird diaper scene, and I don't like it. So yeah, I put Visit here, and I think people would probably be mad because the one above it is Old for me, and Old is really bad. It's super stupid, especially the ending, but I had a lot of fun watching it. It's just a good time because you are just watching this slow motion train wreck, which is funny to call it slow motion since they're speeding through time very quick. I love Old. This is like, I think Visit is like right his middle. It's perfectly fine. Everything below it is trash. Everything above it, there's something redeemable or good.
Yeah, so I'm down to my top 6. I think are all
Okay.
good enough or
Okay.
great. So number 6 is.
I think you've got your numbers mixed up.
Yeah, I think I do too.
Because I got 5 more to talk about.
Yeah, I have 5 too. Where's the hell 6? All right. Oh. Okay, Knock at the Cabin is 6.
Okay.
And we already talked about it, so.
Yeah, Knock at the Cabin is my number 5.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure our top 4 maybe actually no, actually it's
okay. So my number 5 is The Village.
Oh no, I was right. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5. I have 5 left.
Okay.
Yeah, I fucked up.
So
is Village number 5? Is Village?
Number 5 is The Village.
Okay, my number 5 is Split.
Okay. It was between Split and The Village, but the reason Split beats The Village for me is I haven't seen The Village in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty young when I saw it, and I just remember it like being creepy. Wasn't sure what those creatures were, but it was the first time I watched a movie. I was like, I think I know what this twist is. Like halfway through, and it was a big moment for me because I remember going like, you know what? I don't know much about cinema yet. And I think I see what's happening here. And so what I did, I was like,
for me, as soon as the moment I asked myself, what time period is this? Because I can't place their accent, made me go, oh, okay, no accent.
And the twist of like what those monsters really were, I was like, that's kind of like they. I think visually, like with the use of yellow and red,
the ketchup and mustard, ketchup mustard wars,
all that stuff, the mystery behind like what these creatures are, and like when he's up in that tower and sees the thing running, like I think there's a lot of like there's a lot of great scary things in this. It's just how it ends up. I'm like. Okay.
I
where
think
like Split is like, oh, well, I'll let you talk about.
No, that's fine. We'll get to Split when you talk about it. I really like The Village. It's my number 3.
Okay.
It's I don't know. It's just good performances from Adrian Brody. Bryce Dallas Howard is okay, better than Lady in the Water. She's just kind of okay, but it really has a good sense of dread of just like when they're standing up with their backs to the. I think it's Jesse Eisenberg is in the village. He's one of the villagers, and they have to stand up on a stump and put their back to the woods. It's really creepy. Oh yeah, Joaquin Phoenix is in it. There's a lot of
good cast.
It's good cast, fun concept. Even though I saw the ending, I really like it.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're 4.
Number 4 is Split.
Okay.
Great performance by James McAvoy. He's so good in this. Like
so
just
good.
the way he's jumping between his different
I
personalities.
forgot to mention that for Glass, but yeah, he really does such an amazing job.
James McAvoy is just a great actor.
He's so good.
And it's a small movie, just like Knock on the Cabin. It's all takes place pretty much in this like underground bunker, and you just the way you like learn about him and the performances by the 3 actresses are all very good. It's just a small and where it ends up is weird because like it all kind of makes sense logically, but then you find out at the end it's actually like a superpowered supervillain, which is like okay,
Did it
like
have to be connected to Unbreakable?
but just the idea of just like, oh, here's this serial killer who's keeping young girls hostage while also has like 28 different personalities. It's just a lot of fun, and it's creepy, and I think it's just nightmare fuel for a lot of women. And I think it's just an effective movie until you get to the end where you go this supernatural route.
Yeah.
Which I know it's not Shyamalan, he does supernatural stuff, but it's like this could have just been this was 10 Cloverfield Lane. It's like it's a great movie up until like the last 5 minutes, and you're just like, well, you probably should have just ended it here.
Yeah. But still, there's enough goodwill made.
Oh, for sure.
You can forgive kind of a lackluster ending. So my 5 was Split. My number 4 is Signs.
Okay.
I think Signs is good. Probably some of the best performances that M. Night has gotten out of people. Like when Mel Gibson is like forcing himself to eat mashed potatoes at the dinner scene, and he's breaking down and everyone's crying around him. Like everybody's doing a real good job. And of course, that spooky alien scene of him walking across the alley.
Oh, I don't think there's any Signs is my number 3.
Okay.
So
my number 3 is the Village.
Of all his horror stuff, Signs is the one that has like the most effective jump scares.
Yes.
Like the alien walking by, the hand under the door.
Yep.
Like
on the roof, there's just like a dark shadow of one just holding onto a chimney. Really good.
The kid like leaning up against like the wall, and then it's like camouflaged hand is like on the grate and then moves and grabs him. There's some really great scary stuff. And
it just kind of.
But then you get to it's all. Like the mom was dying and saw the future and was like telling her son to swing away. And
the little
like,
girl
aliens are like weak to water.
And then
I think Shyamalan just doesn't like water stuff.
Kid has asthma, and so he doesn't breathe in the weird poison. It's all some big destiny thing.
It's
not the greatest special effects either, even for its time.
Yeah. Effective, and I'm sure played a big part in like his crop circles have been a thing for a long time. It's like, well, here's us explaining it and telling in a spooky way, and just anything running through a cornfield is scary. It's a fun movie. Just once again, like doesn't quite stick the landing, but is good all the way through.
Yeah. And the top 2, it's everybody's top 2.
Yeah,
they're interchangeable for most people. I don't know if we will have the same though, because my number 2 is Sixth Sense.
Yeah, I had a feeling we'd disagree on this.
Okay.
I think everyone's favorite for a long time was Sixth Sense, and then Unbreakable has become this like cult hit that like got this following. It's just like, yeah, Sixth Sense is great. It's the Oscar nominee. Haley Joel Osment kills it. The twist that no one ever saw. Like it had all the publicity, but Unbreakable was this superhero movie that no one realized was a superhero movie, and like now we're living in the era of like superhero movies are everything. Like this one like set a standard that we didn't realize we needed until then,
and people expected another twist, like, oh, the guy who made twist a thing, like he's known for that more than anything else, even more than being like a bad director. He's the guy that does the twist. And it was so culturally shocking that everybody expected a twist in Unbreakable, and there really wasn't. There was a reveal, but no real twist.
Yeah.
And I think people went, oh, well, that's dumb.
Right. I think I would be open to the argument that Unbreakable is a better film,
Mm-hmm.
but I will stand behind that. I don't think it's as interesting.
It's very slow.
It's very slow, and it's. I don't want to say it's a slog, but you know, calling a superhero movie and there isn't like really action
Yeah.
sequences. Like he
No?
defeats one guy and almost dies because he fell into a pool because
Yeah.
his weakness is water. I mean, I love the idea of like, oh, his villain. Here's a guy who can't be hurt, and his ultimate villain, you know, his antithesis, his Joker, is a guy who can get hurt by anything.
Anything, yeah.
Like there's cool ideas here. It like takes comic books and puts it in our real world in a very logical, realistic way, but still gives the characters like superhero abilities and stuff. Like I think it's perfectly executed. There's nothing wrong with this film other than it's kind of slow. Where The Sixth Sense is just
Not fast paced,
not
but
fast
definitely
paced,
has
but
a good pace.
yeah, because you're constantly getting scenes of like a little boy seeing ghosts, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not like they're cute ghosts.
Yeah.
They're scary as fuck.
Yeah.
And you know, you have scenes like haunting stuff where like the mom is like, "Don't open the cabinets," and she walks out, and then all the cabinets are open. Like a second later,
Mm-hmm.
she's like, "How the fuck?" And there's just really effective horror stuff that I think tons of movies have copied since then, and it's all come from The Sixth Sense. Along with it's like the performances in it are great. It's a
Yeah.
horror movie, but it's actually like a heartfelt drama at times.
Mm-hmm.
And I've rewatched the scene at the end with the mom, and like it's like, yeah, I talked to grandma and she saw you dance, and it was just like
Yeah.
it's a really beautiful like scene after just seeing like a woman whose head was bashed in because she like got hit when she was biking.
Yeah.
Like
Tony Collette, right?
Tony Collette,
Yeah.
yeah, before she I think really became like
Yeah.
Tony Collette. But I think she was nominated for that movie too.
Oh, cool.
Um,
But not for Hereditary.
yeah, they were like, well, we've seen it before in Sixth Sense,
What's
but
wrong with you,
yeah,
Academy?
I think Sixth Sense is just great across the board. It's scary, but there's beautiful moments. Like death is like it's not the end, but we can find good use of this ability, and like
Mm-hmm.
he helps that little girl like catch
Misha
her
Barton.
little Misha Barton like find her murderer,
Yeah.
and
Wasn't it her mom was poisoning
no,
her?
her like nanny
Or nurse or
or
something?
yeah, oh, because they hired her because I guess she was sick, and the nurse was poisoning her, or the nanny
keeping
was
her sick,
keeping her
yeah.
sick, yeah, whatever it was. Yeah, I think. Oh, and then of course, like the twist that
The twist.
like everyone would see coming now because we're so movie like people's movie IQ. Like no one falls for bullshit anymore. Like
Yeah.
people call the twist, or like they go on Reddit or whatever. It's
Mhm.
like, oh, I know where this is going to go
Yeah.
just based on the trailer. So it's hard to like fool people now.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, it's like I remember watching it for the first time. I didn't think he was going to be a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
but I saw it when I was like I don't know 12 or something.
Yeah, what was it, 99?
Came out in 99, but I didn't. I remember going to the theater. It was like a kid I was hanging out with. It was one of those like kids who was just like got into more trouble than I did. Like because
Okay.
I was a good little dweeb.
Yep.
And we got to the movie theater, and I think the movie we wanted to see was sold out. So it was like we can see The Sixth Sense, or we can see Dick with Kirsten Dunst.
Oh, come on.
And they were like, let's go see Sixth Sense. And at the time, like, I pretty much don't watch horror movies now.
Yeah.
I was like, but especially at like 9 years old, I was like, I'm not going to see The Sixth Sense. What the fuck are you talking about? So we ended up seeing Dick. I don't remember.
Wow, you convinced them to not see Sixth Sense?
Yep.
Wow.
Because I was
you
a-
should apologize.
I was a scared little boy.
That's pathetic.
So anyway,
Well, I wish I could have been part of the phenomenon of experiencing the twist in theater and being shocked, but my buddy ruined it for me. It was like the same weekend. It was like release weekend. Like, dude, you see that Sixth Sense? Like, no, not yet. I'll get to it. Can't believe Bruce Willis was dead the whole time. And I'm like, motherfucker, I just said I didn't see it. Like, oh, well, sorry. Fuck you, dude. So that got ruined. I didn't get to experience that. And of course, so watching it, it's like, oh yeah, that was good. You know, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
So maybe that does affect me a little bit. But I love Unbreakable so much. And that's why I've always given M. Night a shot. He made Unbreakable. He has the ability to make something almost perfect. And he chooses to make garbage now. But he's made some really bad stuff, and I don't care. He could make 50 more bad movies. I'm gonna keep giving him a shot because Unbreakable is just so good. My only complaint with Unbreakable is at the very end, after Mr. Glass is revealed to be bad, it does the freeze frame and it goes like, Mr. Glass was put away in prison for blah, blah, blah. And like, these are fictional characters. You don't need to tell us what happened after the fact. We know he gets arrested. That's it.
Yeah.
This isn't a biopic. I'm sorry. This isn't a biopic. You don't need to do that. But that's a minor complaint.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think either of these top two are perfectly good choices. And like, I'm not upset for like, I'd be upset if someone, or even, Signs or whatever, like that's my favorite because there is quality there. But if you said your favorite was The Happening or
I'm sure there's people who are like, Lady in the Water is an underrated gem. You just gotta understand it, and yada.
I wouldn't be upset at that.
Yeah,
but if your pick is The Last Airbender, or
I've heard people say Knock at the Cabin is their favorite, and I'm like, okay, I can understand really liking it, but it's not better than at least three of his other movies.
Yeah, if you want to say that you really like that movie, great. It's a solid movie, but to be better than The Sixth Sense is absurd. But you know what? Teach his own. It's all opinion. None of this matters. Our opinion doesn't matter.
I know. I mean, it's not like anyone's even listening to this. So, yeah, we're speaking into the wind. And like we know so much. But
we know enough to have a podcast. Which is, we know how to plug in mics to a computer.
And I could kind of do editing. I can cut things out. Don't ask me to, like, balance levels or anything. There are times like we're maxing out and it gets a little screechy and stuff. I don't know what to do to fix that. It just goes up, and listen to it if you want to.
It'd be funny if now you just put in like a bunch of like sound effects like but I can add these in.
There's no sound effects on here. Like I could do the tone, the doot to like beep out stuff, but I had to generate that. I would figure that this would have at least some soundboards, like a and a honk and a wooga.
The falling sound, the wee.
Yeah. Something. Yeah. But no,
Waste.
None of that.
Well, you're fired.
So, what's next week? We said we'll probably see Magic Mike.
Magic Mike, more Last of Us.
More Last of Us.
What's the big movie release? Is Ant-Man?
Is it?
It might be Ant-Man.
It might be Ant-Man.
Next week. Yeah.
Okay.
Might be a Magic Mike and Ant-Man double feature combo.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Well, Magic Mike will probably spend 5 minutes on it. And then Ant-Man will be like, well, how does this start? And then I'll complain about a bunch of shit. And then you'll be like, I really love this. Hey, man, it's no Thor Ragnarok. Thor Love and Thunder.
It's no Thor the Dark World.
This is the best Ant-Man movie? But, like, is that really a compliment?
Well, I think you should thank me, Steve, because I was gonna bring the James Gunn announcement of all the DC movies that he's going to be releasing in the next few years and bounce those off you. But then I realized Steve doesn't give a shit about this, and it would be for like my own purpose. So I decided to cut it.
Well, I will give any Superman movie a shot. And I love Batman's my favorite comic book character. Yep. I've said it on here. And I love the idea of like, just start like, we're going to start this Batman movie. Damian's already a thing.
Yep.
All the Robins, they've already existed, but
or at least some of them.
Yeah. And Damian's here now, so it's just like we already like the Bat family exists. Mm-hmm. Jason Todd's probably dead. Quotations, and now we just have Damian, and it's like okay, we're just jumping right in, and everything's already like I like that idea. Everything else. I remember watching a YouTube video. It was just like, oh, we're doing a Green Lantern series, and we're doing Booster Gold series, or movie or whatever. And it's just like all that stuff. I was like, I don't think I care about any of this shit. I really do. It's like I'm gonna give Superman a shot, and a Batman I'm interested in. But when you're up against the Batman, it's like, are we really gonna have two competing properties? Yeah. It's like, are they gonna be anywhere close to
the Batman is Elseworlds now?
No one. Yeah, I know they're not in the same universe. I just mean like, if. My only hope is that this one really like goes the James. It's like, okay, I made a movie about a talking tree and a raccoon. Now we're bringing in Clayface. We're bringing in in Leatherface.
Especially this
just anyone with a face, Two-Face. Just all the I want the whole
Scarface. There's another one.
Yeah, the whole cavalcade. Is that cavalcade of pronunciations.
Why do we speak?
The whole rogues gallery. I'll say that I was trying to be more intellectual and I failed. The whole rogues gallery. I don't want anyone off the table. Bring them all in.
And with this being called like Gods and Monsters, it's like, okay.
Yeah. So as long as they go that route, don't give me the Nolan, don't give me the Matt Reeves, give me the James Gunn. Like, yes, Batman's serious. His villains are silly.
Yeah.
And I hope that it's a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's all I'll say about it because I need to eat dinner.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for listening. If you want to get in contact with us, we are at WRPL Podcast on Gmail, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Let us know. Is it biopic or biopic? And so, as always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Good night.